You and I are about to watch a guy reborn as a paladin in a world at war. Eden uses a sun god system to complete missions and earn divine blessings. As a paladin, his first task in Vachar is to spark envy with his solar sword, proving he can crush any enemy standing in his way. High above the village, dark crows circle to announce the arrival of a mysterious knight. Down in the streets, a hooded woman moves quietly toward a nearby house. A man watches her every move, noting that she has followed his orders perfectly. Hovering mid-air, she claims he finally found the right spot, while a dark voice calls her a pretty little thing. The peace shatters as villagers scream in terror after finding a lifeless body inside the well. Staring at the corpse, someone cries out that the demon has returned. The panicked crowd gathers around a massive bonfire. Trembling with fear, a villager approaches the chief to admit he is scared for his life. The chief tells him to wait, promising that a paladin will arrive soon to solve all their problems for good. They believe a legendary warrior with the strength of a god is coming to save them. Trust me, they think they are safe, but pay attention to this man's face because things are about to go south. Suddenly, a hooded figure appears, making the villagers wonder if their savior has finally shown up. They study the stranger, trying to figure out if he is a holy paladin or just another hunter. The chief steps up and demands to know who he is, dismissing him until he reveals his true title. He pulls back his hood, revealing a young face that leaves the crowd doubting if he is really a paladin. Introducing himself as Eden, he explains he is just an apprentice sent to wipe out the local demons. Whispers spread as the crowd loses hope in a mere apprentice, and the chief looks clearly disappointed. Standing before the roaring fire, the young warrior faces the village chief in total silence. Nearby, the villagers moan that they are doomed, while the paladin notes that the damage here is already severe. The chief sighs, admitting that dozens of young women have already been slaughtered. He adds that every single body was found withered and twisted in ways that make no sense. The chief says the sight would haunt even a paladin, while a hidden demon searches for a specific energy. Eden replies that the chief should not speak so lightly of such horrors while turning his gaze toward him. He apologizes for being blunt, but explains that he understands the chief's fear in this unnatural situation. With cold resolve, he declares that the exorcism must begin right this second. He orders every girl of the same age to gather, standing before the terrified group once they are all assembled. Scanning the crowd, he confirms that everyone he requested is present and accounted for. Now watch closely as he senses their fear and prepares to launch into a high-stakes ritual. As he reaches out his hand, a golden light erupts, startling one of the women in the group. Watching the energy swirl, a man wonders if this is the legendary sacred power of the heavens. He places his hand on a girl's forehead, channeling his divine power as the rest watch with bated breath. The woman remains frozen, showing absolutely no reaction to the holy touch of the paladin. Suddenly, he screams that he found it, and orders the villagers to restrain the girl immediately. Terrified, the people gasp, wondering if this innocent girl has really been possessed by a monster. A boy rushes forward, screaming for them to stop because that girl is his sister. He begs them not to burn her, crying out that they are all the family they have left. As he is held back, he struggles against them, while a man says they must kill the demon fast. But the paladin stops them, putting a hand on the boy's shoulder and telling him to stay calm. He tells the boy he does not burn people, explaining they only held her to pinpoint the demon's location. Right then, the demon reveals itself, mocking the noisy humans as the villagers panic in shock. They realize with horror that the real monster was their very own village chief all along. The possessed girl screams that the demon will devour their souls, as the boy cries for his sister. Recognizing the demonic name, the paladin senses a power that can negate even his divine strength. You and I just witnessed a massive twist, and now the real fight begins. You and I are about to see a paladin who plays by his own rules. He draws his sword, unleashing a massive surge of energy to stop a demon possession. He gathers every ounce of his strength, focusing his mind on the next devastating move. The sword releases a blinding flash toward the girl. He points the weapon forward, positioning the tip just inches away from the possessed woman's chest. Suddenly, the girl comes to her senses, confused and not understanding what's happening to her. Seeing she's back, he asks if she's awake and tells her to stay calm. He assures her his sword only strikes evil and won't leave a scratch. Through her tears, the girl asks what she's done. He comforts her, saying it was the demon's fault and now it's time to kill the monster. Right after that, he asks for the exact location where the demon told her to go. Arriving at a brewery, he wonders if this is the place. He rides toward the building under the light of the full moon, getting closer with every step. High above, a mysterious woman watches him from a window. With a wicked smile, the figure prepares to make a move against our paladin. Pay attention here, something's wrong. He pulls the reins, bringing his horse to a sudden, unexpected halt. Annoyed, he tells her to stop this ridiculous nonsense immediately. He shouts, questioning how she dares to lure him away from his goal, but she just offers to go out with him for a while. He ignores her entirely and orders his horse to go the other way. The horse takes off at high speed, kicking up a massive cloud of dust behind them. He rides quickly through the dark forest, putting distance between himself and that place. At the hidden location, an incubus complains that his target never showed up. Introducing himself as Sebastian, he says he's just here to shorten the list of names. Another demon mocks him, saying he's just playing the fool. Hearing the taunt, Sebastian stares at the demon with a look of pure, cold surprise. Gaining momentum, he rushes forward toward his new and unexpected target. Seeing the demon, he asks why it's running. He advances with his sword drawn, preparing to strike the monster with everything he has. With a devastating blow, his sword slams down on the enemy. The ground itself trembles from the impact, triggering a massive explosion. The attack hits the target head-on. Thrown back, the demon is hurled into the air by the force of the blow. The demon smashes into the ground, but it starts to regenerate. Seeing this, the paladin says this kind of power actually excites him. Then the demon screams, shouting that this paladin is making him extremely angry. With a furious look, he shouts and threatens the young, powerful paladin. Promising a painful death, the demon charges forward, attacking with everything it has left. Holding his sword, he tells the demon it talks way too much. Ready to end this, he prepares a brand new skill. He extends his hand, unleashing a completely new and different power. Direct hit! The demon screams in agony as it's swallowed by energy. Cursing him, the monster calls him a mere hound of the divine order. With a smirk, he repeats the words, wondering if he's really just a hound. Okay, I know what you're thinking, he's the good guy, right? Well, he squeezes the demon's neck, telling it he's actually much worse. He refuses the request, saying torturing a demon wouldn't even be fun. Back in the village, the chief is stunned by the paladin's healing power. Explaining it's only temporary, the boy asks about the condition of his dear sister. Handing him a vial, he tells him to give it to her. The boy realizes it's holy water. Thanking him, the paladin says she'll be fine after some rest. Seeing him leave, the village chief calls out desperately for the great paladin to stay. Kneeling, the man begs him to save them from the demons. In this darkness, even the smallest light is incredibly precious. Other villagers join the plea, promising to pray for him every single day. Hearing their cries, he faces the crowd of villagers begging for salvation from the monsters. Seeing the Platinum Knight, the villagers bow before the eradicator of evil. He tells them not to bow, saying he's just doing his duty. As he leaves, the villagers watch him go, seeing him as their only light in the night. Moving away from the village, he continues his path as a paladin. Back in the forest, he tightens his grip on the suffocating demon's neck. Revealing his real plan, he says he didn't give her holy water, but a sleeping potion. Stepping on the demon, he decides to finish it off before the girl wakes up. Suddenly, a voice calls him you guy. His stats appear, revealing a hidden ability called Noble Divine Hypocrisy. Thinking back, he notes how naive these villagers really are. After all, he was reincarnated into this game 2 years ago and doesn't believe in any god. Shocked, the demon asks how he can use divine power without any faith in the gods. Staring down at his enemy, the paladin stays silent. He dismisses the question, cursing the demon for being so persistent. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how he levels up by killing demons. He lands a blow, smashing its face into the ground. You and I are watching a hero with crazy power. Boom! Skull completely shattered. He remembers an old legend about a world ruled by ancient gods back when peace was destroyed by a sudden demon invasion. That's when Vakshar, the sun god, stepped up alone to face the massive evil threatening their entire world. Following that victory, humanity started worshipping only the sun god, using his holy power to wipe out every last demon. Turns out, this is just the game's backstory, and exactly how our hero scored his insane powers. Suddenly, a flashback. A mother screams as demons attack her son while people are burned alive in the rising flames. Eyes wide with shock, he wonders how he even got here. Watching the world burn, he realizes he's inside the game. Then bam! A heavy blow sends him flying backward. He hits the dirt, screaming in agony. As he crawls, he realizes this nightmare feels way too familiar since launch day. Staring down a monster, he remembers this game is famous for being brutally difficult. He looks up and sees a massive Minotaur. It lunges at Eden, proving why nobody has ever actually finished this game. One swing is all it takes to crush Eden with overwhelming force. He collapses, groaning from the sheer level of pain. Spitting out blood, he screams in pure agony while staring blankly at the ceiling. He sits up, realizing the pain is 100% real. Nearby, he hears men desperate for a god's salvation. Confused, he watches them beg the sun god for help. He can't believe they're just standing there instead of running away. Despite the blinding pain, he fights with everything he's got just to stand back up. He stares at the swarming creatures in despair, wondering why there are so many. He screams for a woman to run fast. He begs her to quit praying and just run for her life already. He wonders if this is really how it ends. But then, he spots a sword lying next to a fallen man. Reaching out, he refuses to be ignored. He grabs the blade, deciding he'll be the one to fight while they pray. Suddenly, a massive surge of power hits him. He's stunned. There's no way this is actually happening, right? Now pay attention, this window shows his power is actually called Noble and Pure Hypocrisy. Weird, right? He stares at the screen. This is a unique skill he's never once seen in the game before. Feeling the strength rush through him, he knows he can finally put an end to that monster. He raises his blade, charging with everything he's got. With one desperate roar, he leaps and slices the beast in half. You and I both saw this coming. The Minotaur's eyes lock right onto him. It's about to get ugly. Terror sets in as the monster focuses on him. It lets out a deafening roar. Why is it targeting him now? He takes a direct hit, getting absolutely crushed by the Minotaur's devastating power. The impact sends him flying back with violent force. He stands up slowly, completely confused by what he just felt. He touches his chest. It didn't hurt. Could this really be the effect of that divine power? Gripping the sword, he realizes he can actually kill demons now. He asks why they're taking so long to enter. Standing inside a massive hall, he steps right in front of her. He introduces himself as the apprentice who caught the demon, slamming the chained prisoner onto the cold floor. She demands to know why he's still alive. Then, she coldly orders her guards to execute the man instead. The prisoner looks up and asks who she is. Our hero realizes she has absolutely no idea what she's saying. Out of nowhere, she kicks him square in the face, screaming that she should have killed him already. She snaps at the apprentice, calling him incompetent before stomping down and crushing the prisoner's skull. After the brutal execution, the apprentice just stands there, drenched in fresh blood. Looking at the body, he explains the Baron wanted him captured alive just to vent some serious anger. He points out the demon never even saw her. Furious, she lunges forward and slaps him across the face. He doesn't even flinch, asking how she dares speak to him like that. She screams for his total submission. She swings again, but he catches her wrist mid-air, shutting down her second attack instantly. Suddenly, a nobleman arrives, demanding to know how a commoner dares to touch a lady of high rank. Drawing his sword, the noble prepares to strike. Our guy just stays calm, telling him to use his brain. And trust me, that's where we leave it. You're going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a web of lies and betrayal. The old man backs down, and she summons her maids. Fuming with rage, she brutally slaps the first maid's face. Without skipping a beat, she strikes the second one with a vicious backhand. Watching this unfold, he wonders what kind of place this really is. She grips the maid and asks if he has a problem with it. She screams at him to eliminate that filthy demon right now. But with a tightened fist, he knows she is hiding something dark. Standing over the body, he admits he simply can't kill someone in this state. He explains that execution would be too easy and set a terrible example. Lying in the dirt, the demon lifts its head to watch. Without warning, he delivers a heavy blow to the prisoner's back. Reeling from the strike, the man asks if this apprentice will truly go unpunished. He strikes him again, commanding the demon to keep its mouth shut immediately. With sword drawn, he claims the creature's death is for daring to touch Eleanor. But the demon screams that it's all a lie, he never even got near her. Sensing the rising tension, the nobleman tells her it's best if they just head inside. Stunned by the denial, he falls into a brief silence. From the ground, the demon points, trying to get the human's attention. Screaming in agony, the demon asks why she's pretending not to know him. He wonders if this was all a trick to sacrifice the entire village. He calls her the real demon, accusing her of being a master of deception. Now watch closely, this is where the main character finally sees through the mask. He executes the demon and asks where they are going in such a hurry. He explains that he simply cannot ignore those final words the demon spoke. Furious, she asks how he dares to trust a demon's word over her own. She screams for a reason to investigate. He mentions the bodies found outside, noting that those were the scouts who had been punished. Facing them both, he prepares to expose the ugly truth. He drops a bombshell. One of those scouts is actually still alive. Noticing her fake concern, he tells her he has a strong hunch about what happened here. He reveals the demon's true nature as a soul-sucking energy incubus. The victims always die in pure agony. But he points out she's perfectly fine. It's a massive contrast to everyone else the demon touched. He reveals the demon just appeared out of thin air. Looking back, it's almost as if someone intentionally summoned it into the village. He asks the nobleman if he understands the gravity of this. Moving closer, he claims he can smell the stench of the scout right beside him. Stopping right in the nobleman's face, he glares at him. He recognizes the scent. It's the exact same smell he caught when he first arrived. He shouts that this is the foul, disgusting stench of a true demon. His hand glows with energy as he focuses. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a dead maid on a bedroom floor. Beside the corpse, the nobleman and Eleanor watch their handiwork. A scream pierces the air, and they immediately race toward the source of the noise. Carrying her, he asks how they'll fix this mess. He decides to pin the blame for all the chaos on a rampaging demon. He concludes that if they find a real demon, their story will become the truth. I know what you're thinking. A summoning for love? Yeah, she convinced him to do it by promising he would finally become the heir. Back in the present, he declares his divine power will expose the magic they used. Energy hits him, revealing hidden potion vials. Just then, an inquisitor arrives with fake holy water found directly in her private quarters. He exposes that the nobleman used these vials to suppress his magic all along. Desperate, he screams that it's all a misunderstanding, and there's a reason for this. Leading him away, Eden asks for the truth. He waits in total silence, never breaking his cold, steady gaze. In a flashback, the nobleman asks if Eden wants an investigation. Eden agrees, telling him to get it done as fast as possible. Zorith says he will find evidence, but he needs him to keep Eleanor distracted. Returning to the present, a figure is slowly being consumed by dark energy. Zareth explains that hiding demonic energy is the ultimate blasphemy. Watching this, Eleanor screams in pure desperation, not knowing where to turn. He calls her responsible and faces her. However, he admits there isn't any physical evidence directly linking her to the demon itself. But then he reminds her that a paladin's word is treated as absolute truth. She screams her innocence and blames the man. He reveals he was only silent because she threatened to kill him. She continues to scream that she's helpless, calling him a total bastard. Gritting his teeth, he yells that she can die right here. In a blind rage, he lunges and slams her into the floor. And that's where we leave it, trust me. You're going to want to see what happens next. He asks how she could abandon him. You and I are back as she screams for him to stay away. In seconds, his body crumbles into glowing dust. Surprised by the transformation, he wonders what is happening. Suddenly, an older man rushes into the hall. Panicked, he shouts to see if his daughter is safe. Spotting the Baron, the Inquisitor looks stunned. Meanwhile, Eden reaches out to help the woman off the floor. The Inquisitor tells the Baron he will keep quiet for friendship's sake, but this is the final warning. Standing by his side, she calls this a disaster. He argues that purification must be applied to everyone. Looking the noblewoman in the eye, he tells her she should feel very lucky. She thanks the order for killing the demon before he announces that he is going to rest. He warns her that judgment was avoided today, but rumors will destroy her reputation forever. Now pay attention, a voice stops him, asking if he is the legendary warrior known as Eden. Introducing himself as Bishop Fell, he begins chatting with the Baron while the group watches. Eden just watches the scene play out. Formally, he says it is an honor to meet the bishop. Apologizing for the rush, Fell asks for a quick ceremony. Eden asks what is going on. The bishop explains they found a group of cultists. He warns that these worshippers are incredibly powerful. The Inquisitor agrees they need full power. He asks Eden for help since the other paladins are busy. Then, the bishop asks to officially appoint him as a paladin to hunt these divine traitors. He blames the demonic cult for the missing kids. With a smirk on his face, he says he understands the situation. Let that sink in. Fell is a total monster and a clear enemy in this story. Eden realizes he is trying to intercept the kids. Kneeling, he says God's will is the Order's will. He accepts the offer immediately and says he will gladly join the mission. Starting the ceremony, the bishop calls him a blessed child who truly wants to become his sword. With a holy blade, he dubs him a paladin. Elsewhere, a voice calls out to Lord Eden. Stepping into his new armor, he thinks the whole outfit is a bit too much. But a young servant named Yuan says he looks amazing. He introduces himself as Eden's new assistant. The boy bows, saying it is an absolute honor, but Eden doesn't say a word. In a flashback, Fell says paladins need servants, but admits this recruit is pretty weak. Riding out, Eden realizes his troops are pathetic. He got common knights instead of elite mages. This was the plan. Now the children can be intercepted exactly as Fell intended. To counter it, he picks a dangerous cult site. Riding nearby, Zareth asks why he looks unhappy. He laughs it off, and asks Zareth where he has been traveling alone for so long. Pointing at his filthy clothes, he says the smell is even worse. His senses aren't even human anymore. Asking if he found anything, Zareth just calls him way too obsessive. Claiming everything feels off, he reveals he went to scout the location ahead of time. He sensed the magic there but stayed hidden to avoid being noticed. He also found something very interesting at the cemetery. Stopping the horses, Eden asks for details. Zareth mentions open graves and traces of dark necromancy. Looking a bit embarrassed, he admits he wasn't strong enough to break the spell. Eden realizes their opponent's level is insane. It could be a massive preparation or a trap set up in advance. They could report it or walk right in, but Zareth would rather see it for himself. Under the full moon, the group decides to move. At the graveyard, they search for any clues. Zareth warns the magic is thickening, making it perfect for a demonic possession. Surrounded by knights, they scan the area with extreme caution and care. Watching the soldiers, Yuan asks what to do, but Eden tells him he doesn't need to do anything. Suddenly, his expression shifts. In an instant, everyone freezes as they sense a massive danger, and Eden shouts for everyone to prepare for an attack. Just then, a rotting hand bursts through the dirt directly in front of them. The dead begin rising violently, and trust me, you and I are about to see an absolute bloodbath. Alright, stick with me as we dive into an epic battle against the undead. It is a trap, but Eden sees the perfect chance to gain experience points and draws his blade. With total focus, he locks onto the mob, charges forward, and lets out a massive swing into their ranks. Shouting for them to brace themselves, he releases a devastating blast of pure, holy energy. The front line gets absolutely obliterated. Seeing the opening, Xerath realizes he finally has the space for his spells. Xerath gathers his mana, swearing to end this mess. His magic hits the undead so hard it shocks the soldiers. Once the light touches them, the monsters' bodies literally start turning to dust. One zombie screams in agony as it burns away, while several others nearby simply explode from the spell's power. Xerath explains he waited to release the spell just to lure out even more of those nasty creatures. He tells the troops he was ready. Watching him, Eden remembers that in the game, Xerath was actually a villain. He is glad they are allies now, because fighting him would be a nightmare. Now, they must find the necromancer. But here's the thing, someone was watching them from the center of the graveyard the whole time. A mysterious figure mocks them, asking if they want a real challenge. Yuan spots the threat and shouts to Eden. Suddenly, the ground begins to glow with a dark light as a stronger horde of undead crawls out. Xerath warns him to be careful, reminding Eden that he is not a god yet. Eden tells him to handle the front while he hunts the necromancer. Then, he notices the new recruits are frozen. These rookie knights are completely paralyzed, just watching as the monsters close in for the kill. Drawing his sword, Eden tells the kids to stay back. But Xerath says he cannot keep fighting all alone. He suggests giving the rookies a shot, since everyone has to start as a beginner sometime. Gripping his hilt tightly, Eden prepares his move while staring down the trembling recruit standing in front of him. He shouts a warning once the real chaos starts. He won't be able to play bodyguard for anyone. The recruit vows to fight with everything he has, even if it means dying. Eden sees that raw determination. Respecting that fire, Eden accepts the young man's help as they prepare for the coming slaughter. Raising his blade, Eden curses the heretic and orders the men into a pentagon formation with him at the point. You and I can see the fear in their eyes, but they shout that they will follow his divine will. Eden leaps into the sky, leading the charge alongside two others straight into the undead mob. He explains the rookies will fight, using the holy power he shared. Then, he releases a massive shockwave. They cannot use this power alone, but with his help, they can actually stand their ground. Standing next to a paladin gives them the boost they need. One recruit lunges forward and lands a blow. In the back, Xerath stays focused, weaving together the mana for another massive offensive spell. Boom. A giant explosion rips through the battlefield. Eden notes that everyone is finally doing their part. He can feel the dark magic in the area getting thicker and more foul. Pushing for victory, he says they must reach the necromancer. With one powerful strike, he declares that this nightmare finally ends. Suddenly, he senses a new presence nearby and goes on high alert. Out of the shadows, a masked figure appears. Eden spins around and yells for everyone to watch out. The figure strikes with lightning speed, cutting down soldiers instantly. This enemy is a great dark knight. Eden gets shoved back and wonders if this is the strongest undead in the area. Yuan screams out in terror that they are in big trouble. From afar, the necromancer laughs at them. Eden narrows his eyes, focusing everything to counter the knight's next move. The necromancer claims his dark knight has already recognized Eden as a worthy opponent. The necromancer says his knight was dying to fight from the start, but then he smiles and leaves for other business. Watching him go, Eden realizes he has never seen this mysterious necromancer before. He wonders if the game's difficulty has spiked beyond what he remembers. He looks at his struggling soldiers and grits his teeth, annoyed to face such a boss so early. Trust me, you and I are about to see him go all out. Eden just smiles and tells Xerath to leave the enemy to him. Alright, you and I are about to dive into an epic showdown as Xerath orders an attack on the monster's core while the recruits take on the horde. Eden warns everyone to stay alive during the carnage. Without smashing that core, this knight will just keep regenerating forever. He charges his foe, yelling that he will find its weak spot. With a roar, he brings his blade down in a heavy opening strike. He lunges forward again, his sword moving like a silver blur of precision. The hit connects, sending the beast stumbling back, totally off balance. He immediately readies himself, eyes locked on the monster for the next round. Lightning-fast strikes follow, but nothing works. Slammed to his knees, he desperately searches for a way to break through its guard. Spotting a tiny opening, he hoists his blade high for what looks like the finisher. But wait, the monster is guarding its head. He grips his hilt tighter, teeth grit, waiting for the perfect split-second opening. There it is, the perfect gap. He decides to bet everything on this one strike. The blade bites deep into the creature's neck. As it collapses, its head starts shattering into a million tiny pieces. Now pay attention here, he's on his knees, thinking it's finally over. But then his eyes go wide as he senses something terrifying. Suddenly, the body erupts in a massive explosion beneath the moonlight. The force is insane, dragging him back across the dirt. Looking at his shattered armor, he realizes his internal organs would have been history without it. He thought the head was the weak spot. No luck. The monster regenerates instantly, making him question its impossible defense. Dragging himself up, he thinks hard. If the beast went that far to protect its head, something else must be hidden there. A strange metal structure flashes in his mind like a vision. He realizes the truth. It couldn't possibly be that, right? He charges in again, striking with everything. This time, the enemy actually screams in pure, desperate agony. With a smirk, he reveals the secret: the tongue was the weakness. He doesn't let up, driving his blade home with brutal force. He parries a desperate counter, knowing a direct frontal assault won't work anymore. He goes for the legs instead, aiming to cripple its movement. One clean swipe hits the mark, and he knows he's got it. The monster is frozen. Now, all that's left is to find and destroy that hidden core. Clenching his fist, he prepares for one last risky gamble. He pulls his dagger, shouting that he's going for the liver. He rips the dagger out and watches the beast fall. The victory screen pops up. It's finally over. Scene change. A man coldly declares that someone has chosen death for their act of blasphemy. Okay, you and I are shifting gears here. Who exactly is this hooded guy? He claims his devotion belongs to another god entirely. The man thinks he's seeing things. He demands to know how the warrior got here, and if that knight was defeated. The warrior simply confirms it, admitting it was one hell of a difficult struggle. He comments that the recruits must have fought, but he's afraid there is nothing left. He laments having nobody stronger than the defeated Black Knight. The leader isn't buying the body-snatching talk. He warns that he has a lot of questions. The hooded figure just scoffs, asking why they'd think he'd talk. He steps forward, begging his master to absorb his soul right now. He offers his very soul as his body is suddenly yanked into the sky. At that exact moment, the ground shakes violently, shocking the group watching the situation. The man panics, realizing everything will only get worse without him there. Under the pale moon, the warrior readies a massive strike with his giant weapon. He spins and hurls the weapon with insane force. It streaks across the battlefield like a comet toward the group. The hit slams directly into the man's chest. He screams out in pure, agonizing desperation. The leader asks if this is something biblical, but he's told to find the bishop and meet up later. The warrior sprints for the cliff's edge. He leaps into the abyss, yelling that they will cross paths again soon. The leader just sighs as he watches him go. He's gone before they can even react. With a smile, the leader gives the order to move. As they land, the impact kicks up a massive cloud of debris. He uses his sword to slow the descent, landing safely after that insane jump off the cliff. He spots the bishop holding a wounded hostage. The bishop can't believe the incredible skills he's seeing in action. The bishop's greed is showing. He reveals a dark deal was made the best knight in exchange for this man. Pure irritation. He finally realizes Pharrell was cutting deals with the enemy the whole time. Grabbing the hostage, he wonders if the sacrifice site changed. He throws the man over his shoulder and bolts for safety. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what's left of that village once the smoke clears. Let's dive into this. He is investigating the ruins of a village destroyed by fire. The view from above is haunting. The entire village has been reduced to ash by a brutal attack. He sprints through the heat, realizing this whole community has been completely erased. A wounded survivor clings to him, desperately begging for anyone to be saved. He glances at the carnage nearby, and his face says everything. This is pure horror. He looks at the survivors screaming through the smoke. Children are trapped deep within the inferno, their cries for help echoing through the burning wood. Zeroth just stands there with a sick smile, watching the children and the dead. He coldly mutters that trying to save them really isn't a good idea. Then, Zeroth mockingly asks the group if they are arriving a little late. Trust me, Zeroth is a monster. He looks at them with contempt, while our hero remembers that in the game, this guy burns people alive without hesitation. As he charges directly into the fire, a bystander shouts that he has gone completely mad. He stands still as the fire spreads behind him. Looking inward, he finally admits the truth: he was never actually a good man. Every kind act was just a calculation to boost his stats and survive. In this world of power, he refused to let anyone oppress him. He played the hero just to get ahead. Now, he wonders if he should even keep it up. We jump forward. A woman comments on his insane life force. He hears her voice and turns his head in silence, his mind racing. Inside the quiet room, he finds a girl sitting and watching his every move. She bows respectfully, addressing him as Lord Eden. As he fully wakes up, he realizes this is Saint Uriel from the Holy Order. He asks where they are heading. Her answer is simple: they are going straight to the Order. He goes silent, completely stunned by the news. He suddenly tries to jump out of bed, causing the girl on the floor to warn him to take it easy. Panic sets in as he asks about Zeroth and what happened to those kids. When he presses her about the forest children, she coldly reminds him he is being rude. He rubs his head and apologizes to the saint for his temper. She tells him the children are safe and that he is only alive because she was passing by. He is confused. He asks again just to be sure that the children are actually unharmed. Let's pause here, things are changing. She confirms his choices were different this time. But this never happened in the game before. Seeing that Uriel has no more answers, he starts breaking down what is really going on. He spots the Maris flag and realizes she has not officially become a saint yet. He asks about the others, but she tells him to rest. He realizes they are heading to her ceremony. Based on his game knowledge, a massive event is about to go down right here. He gives her a warning. Some people pretending to be her superiors are coming. She is lost, but he tells her he is just paying back a debt. She screams for him to wait, but he has already leaped out. He dives into the thick forest and manages to stick a perfect landing on the ground. He mutters that he did his part to warn her. As he heads toward the order, a knight rides up, calling him Lord Eden and mentioning he saw the crazy jump. The knight is there to escort him. He is shocked to see that Yuan, his old comrade, is actually alive. Yuan tells him to move it. He thinks this young man could actually be quite useful. They kick their horses into a gallop down the dusty road. Riding side by side, the knight admits he is stunned by this whole situation. He apologizes and admits that, to be totally honest, he thought Lord Eden was dead. Yuan explains that everyone saw the flames swallow him up. He is confused because he knows Zeroth's power never stops once it has been triggered. He tells the knight he wants the full story. Yuan explains that the flames on his body just vanished instantly. He is floored. There is no way Zeroth's power should have just disappeared. This is different from the original plot. Yuan pulls out an envelope, a card from Zeroth. We then shift to Zeroth's mansion in the kingdom of Arheim. He sits silently in his armchair, waiting for what feels like an eternity. He closes his eyes as dark memories start flooding back. In the flashback, he promises to sacrifice everything for his dark god. He lunges at the older man, stabbing the dagger into him over and over again. His older brother suddenly appears. Terrified, the brother asks if he should send him to join their mother. Just then, someone announces a new arrival. Without even opening his eyes, he tells the guard he received the message. As he enters, he is told the Lord has already arrived. The warrior says nothing, just staring back with a deadly serious look on his face. He explains he is not the social type. That is why he never wanted to stay in such a wealthy nation. So what do you and I make of this? It seems his faith is finally being pushed to the limit. Alright, stick with me, we're about to see a hero torn between his holy faith and cold reality. Descending into the dark basement, they find nothing but crimson bloodstains. He confesses the bishop betrayed him, trading his soul to heretics for the lives of children. How does a holy paladin fall so far to become a dark knight? Looking at the carnage, he realizes a brutal choice must be made right now. That's when the bombshell drops, a name escapes Fell's lips that no one expected. Archbishop Tigan. Shock hits him hard. Tigan is a moderate, and this accusation is just fuel for the radical fire. With war on the horizon, he demands to know the warrior's next move. He needs absolute proof before reporting this, or the whole world burns in conflict. Then comes the million-dollar question, what happens if he reports this and triggers a full investigation? The land is rotting from within. He swears to stop the evil, even if it means drawing blood. He just laughs, impressed by the warrior's lack of hesitation. That's the difference between them, he says, before reaching out to touch Eden. Now watch this suddenly. A massive impact slams into his chest during a brutal surprise attack. Zeroth reveals the devastating truth: God snuffed out his holy flames the moment he hesitated to save the innocent. Disappointing his god is a weight he can't carry, and there are no second chances. He begs for guidance to the afterlife, unable to decide, asking for forgiveness for his fatal delays. The warrior doesn't blink, replying that he doesn't care. To him, this is just the path everyone must walk. A strange, eerie light reflects in his eyes. Looking down at his palms, he realizes the power has shifted to him. Zeroth watches the transfer with a twisted, satisfied grin. As the power surges through Eden, he hears the words, God has finally chosen his new vessel. The basement erupts in screams as prisoners beg for their lives, terrified of the darkness closing in. Stepping into a firm stance beside his master, he prepares for the shift. Zeroth declares that all that power now belongs to him. Eden's eyes go wide. Disbelief hits him hard as he watches the power shift while supporting the warrior. His master asks if he's holding up. This power is dangerous, and the warrior has no idea what kind of monster he's just inherited. Worried, he checks on his master's condition since that was his primary skill. The master just shrugs, he deserved to lose it, so he's fine. Extending a hand, his master promises he'll be at peace if Eden uses this power for good. He vows never to let innocence burn again. Hearing that conviction, his master gives a nod of pure approval. He's not a hero. He says he just does what needs to be done. Now they must confront the archbishop about his demonic ties. The master stops him, saying they have to wait for the saint's sacred book dedication first. Apologizing for his fatigue, he heads off to rest while the master handles the meeting. At the door, he calls out for Yuan. Yuan appears at the top of the stairs, and the master pulls him aside for a very private talk. Telling the warrior to get some sleep, the master and Yuan head out. He watches them leave, silently promising to wait for their return. Now, pay attention a few days later. The crimes of the apostate and fell are finally revealed to everyone. Inside a massive council chamber, leaders gather to tear the case apart. With the evidence piling up, there was absolutely no way to bury this massive scandal. Down in the bishop's private, rotting basement, they discovered dozens of children in horrific condition. The church immediately stepped in, vowing to protect and heal the survivors at the monastery. While digging through the heresy files, the task force found surprisingly few issues with the other local priests. He reveals a sick truth. Fell actually enjoyed slaughtering parents right in front of their screaming children. Worried, he tells his master the blue flame won't ignite. The master explains that these flames burn on conviction, and his heart is different. It's frustrating to hold the ultimate power and not be able to use it to win the game. Looking away, he realizes he can't rely on this unstable strength anymore. It's going to be a brutal, uphill battle from here, but the master says only practice will sharpen him. Looking out at the courtyard, he's baffled to see Yuan training with a sword. His master chuckles, asking if he's surprised. Apparently, Yuan has been out there every single day since the incident. After Yuan complained about being weak, he suggested some exercises so the kid could actually be useful. Gasping for air, the master asks if he's slacking off. He just nods, realizing that suddenly, every eye in the room is on him. Moving toward the temple, a nobleman greets him, mentioning that his reputation is growing like wildfire in the streets. Surrounded by a crowd, he notes that his recent heroics are drawing way more attention than he's comfortable with. From the shadows, two men whisper that he doesn't look like much compared to his impressive file. One man scoffs that the rumors are exaggerated and decides to test him personally. He approaches the group with a fake smile and offers a greeting hand. And that's it, you and I just watched him pass the massive 2-year test in record time. You and I are diving into a story where this guy thinks our hero lacks experience. He offers a handshake, but the vibe is incredibly strange. The man grips Eden's hand with crushing force, trying to prove he is the one in charge here. He warns that one day the warrior will hear the legend of the Montab bird, smiling as he says rumors are just rumors, but facts are facts. He stares deep into Eden's eyes, mocking the very idea of spreading rumors about a nobody. Suddenly, the man's hand starts cracking, and he screams in pure agony, wondering what kind of monster he just tried to crush. Eden shoves him away, and the man slams into the floor. On his knees, he realizes this power is way beyond any normal paladin. Just then, a voice calls out from the shadows, addressing our main character as Lord Eden. A woman approaches from behind, telling him he is finally in the right place. He turns around and comes face to face with the young woman who called him. The woman introduces herself as Uriel, leaving the fallen man shouting her name in total shock. Now watch closely, she bows low and thanks Eden because his advice saved her life, mentioning the massive reward her father promised. In front of everyone, he refuses the reward, claiming it was actually God who saved her life. With a smile, she asks if that is really the case. She then requests a private word with him before the book dedication ceremony. Once they are alone in the temple, she asks if it was really God's will for him to jump into those flames. He admits it was his own choice, since there is no reason to lie when nobody else is listening. She questions why he took such a risk. He says he did it for her sake. It is a vague answer, but she rewards his devotion anyway. She asks him to take her hand for a blessing. Eden knows this ritual will give his character stats a massive boost. He takes her hand without hesitation. Starting the ritual, she says the agent of judgment has done his important duties. She asks if he will always stay faithful to his God, and he answers yes. She continues, asking if he will spread the teachings and lead the path of necessary destruction. Finally, she asks for total devotion. He says yes, but you and I both know that lies never work on Uriel. With her power of perception, she stares at him and wonders if that answer was nothing but a lie. Shocked by this discovery, she wonders what Lord Eden truly is. Suddenly, the door opens and they announce that Archbishop Tegan is entering. Eden pulls her aside, saying they will talk later, before making a quick exit from the temple. Having received the blessing, he gives thanks and vows to use this power. Meanwhile, Uriel clutches her chest, praying that a situation like this never happens again. Looking at his stats, she is in total disbelief that a mere paladin could hold such power. As she watches him walk away, she realizes this man does not actually believe in God at all. Eden sprints through the halls, desperate to find the archbishop. He asks for his location, and his partner points him toward the front. Approaching the group, he knows that a person's character does not usually change that easily. He approaches Tegan. a man who has always been incredibly faithful to the church until this very moment. Kneeling before the leader, our main character is officially introduced to the Archbishop as the Paladin Eden. Archbishop Tegan calls him a hero for his great actions, but Eden humbles himself, saying it was all for the church. Tegan says the church did nothing. Eden realizes there isn't a single hint of fabrication or lie in the words of the man standing before him. After the ceremony, the Archbishop invites him for a private cup of tea. Eden accepts, promising to head to the office as soon as the ceremony concludes. The Archbishop says he looks forward to hearing about the new hero's legends as a member of the sacred tribe. The Archbishop confirms they will meet once the ceremony concludes. Suddenly, his companion breaks the news that he will not be able to attend the investiture after all. Uriel watches the interaction from a distance with a serious expression. She turns to a frightened young man and asks exactly what Euron just said to him right now. Breaking away from the group of clerics, he heads down the grand hallway, all by himself. As he walks down the avenue followed by knights, the night sky is completely lit up by beautiful celebration fireworks for the people. With a serious face, he knows this is the crucial moment to protect their saint. The townspeople cheer while watching the fireworks with excitement, but Eden's mind drifts back to a memory of widespread destruction and cold bodies. His vision shows villagers living like cattle in a town that has been completely cursed. He remembers a lord who did horrific things while under the influence of the devil's dark power. Famine and thieves were everywhere as people struggled to survive. Staring at the moon, he reflects on that miserable past. This whole expedition is just a fake facade, and trust me, you and I will see it crumble very soon. Stick with me, because you and I are about to see our hero walk straight into a den of snakes as he reaches a massive wooden door. Carefully, he cracks the door open, peeking inside to see exactly what is going down in that room. Sitting on the sofa, the Archbishop asks if he is finally ready to talk. He offers a cup, telling him to drink up before the tea gets cold. Research showed that this Archbishop was a man devoted to the church, regardless of where he actually came from. He had even made a ton of massive contributions to the safety of the entire kingdom. He questions what the Mashin sect has to do with any of this. While drinking his tea, he wonders just how much greed that man still has left. Addressing the hero, the man claims he knows exactly why he is here. Suddenly, the Archbishop stands and violently flips the table right at him. He admits Fel mentioned his name, but he managed to bury the truth before anyone found out. Staring at his reflection in the tea, he asks if that was just a full confession of guilt. Suddenly, an assassin leaps from behind, lunging with a sword. But pay attention here, because you and I are about to see some insane reflexes. He reaches out, moving like lightning to block the sword strike. Then, he effortlessly grabs the assassin by the throat. With the killer in his grip, he asks if they really thought a pathetic surprise attack would work. Looking up, he realizes there is something else happening. He is confused, unable to wrap his head around what he is sensing. It feels like the moment he sparked the blue flame, and right then, he decides to kill them both. Panicked, the Archbishop screams at the guard, asking if he has forgotten his orders. The guard apologizes, claiming he can kill them both even without a sword. The Archbishop rubs his face, saying he never meant to provoke him. Still holding the guard, our hero tells the Archbishop to just calm down and listen to what he says. Thinking of Chongyong, he finally pieces together what is actually happening in this moment. He lets the guard go, agreeing to listen, but warns he will not be kind. The Archbishop notes that paladins have immediate judgment authority. He explains that the Mashin sect is invading the country and causing total chaos. Because of this, he secretly formed a team to track them. He could not strike back before because spies are everywhere in the Empire. Looking away, he says that is the final answer to the hero's question. He asks if the Archbishop was a double agent, but it feels fishy. The man claims he used the apostate and has proof. This proof includes a diary, his investigation team, and the names of all the apostates. Knowing evidence can be faked, the Archbishop warns that if he is arrested, the Dark Expedition will just keep going. Seeing the man's resolve, he is shocked by how capable some people in high positions actually are. He promises to send the evidence, but asks a favor once it is reviewed. He points to a map the sect wants Atum's warriors. You and I are about to see his worst nightmare come to life, as a vision of total catastrophe appears. A legendary monster known as a manticore. He remembers that in the game, the summoning of this beast starts everything. He expected the timeline to speed up, but not this much. Elsewhere, his master warns of a massive, bloody purge coming. Reading the files, he sees every detail about the priests who betrayed their faith. He realizes Tegan is hiding his claws, just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Smiling, he notes that talented allies are finally starting to show up. His master asks why the Archbishop handed over the intel. Did he really give it all up just to prove he's innocent? Rushing out of that place, he begins the next high-stakes mission of his long journey. He disagrees, saying it looks like a clear offer to team up. He decides they must head to that location immediately. Riding through the burning desert, his companion yells out, calling him by his title, Lord Aiden. Reaching their goal, He announces they have finally tracked down the Juriel Inn they were searching for. Meanwhile, a man screams at someone named Daryl to slow down before it is too late. Inside, one man asks another if he forgot who was supposed to come here today. He's told to be quiet, as they will come for him anyway. He then asks the girl to handle everything until he gets back from this sudden emergency. Leaving the room, his mind is fixed on the Paladin's arrival. Seeing no lies, he apologizes for being so rude before. The apology is accepted, and the Archbishop says his trust in him has grown even more. Revealing the map of Gobendel, he begs him to stop the ritual. He makes him the leader, demanding total focus on this mission. Stay tuned for his final request. Alright, you and I are diving into a mission where the stakes couldn't be higher. He tells the Archbishop they need the highest grade holy water because they finally found their target's location. This sacred water is his insurance policy against the monster's overwhelming demonic power. Back in the scorching desert, his partner yells out that he finally spotted the Juriel Inn. It's shocking to find a working inn in this wasteland. Stepping inside, he immediately asks if their target is actually hiding out on the 3rd floor. As he climbs the creaky stairs, he accidentally kicks an empty liquor bottle aside. A drunk on the floor demands to know who he is. Suddenly, a young girl appears, asking her brother about the commotion downstairs. The man recognizes the Paladin and asks if he forgot about their massive meeting today. The drunk apologizes, claiming he's just a simple man who lacks manners. But smelling that booze? It makes our main character feel sick to his stomach. He bluntly tells the guy to go brush his teeth, and surprisingly, the drunk agrees. The sister says sorry, explaining her brother is just wasted and she will handle him. After learning her name is Sane, he tells her to wait in her room. His partner swears on the gods everything is fine, but he isn't buying it. He reassures the girl not to worry, because he never breaks a sacred oath. Now pay attention, because this drunk isn't what he seems. He claims he doesn't trust rumors and needs to see real skills with his own eyes. He asks if the man is a demon hunter, noting his survival instincts. The hunter scoffs, calling anyone who hasn't heard of him a pathetic rookie. Peeling off his gloves, he gets ready to show off his real power in battle. He vows to serve whoever wins, and the warrior charges. The hunter admits he only respects the strongest as he lunges forward to strike back. He swings his twin blades, trying to catch the warrior with a rapid spinning slash. Dodging sideways, he barely avoids the steel and prepares to counter. He leaps back, creating space to get a better look at this hunter's movements. Touching down, he realizes this demon hunter is actually incredibly fast and light on his feet. The hunter brags that at this speed, he won't even be touched. He flips through the air, dodging effortlessly, while hurling a deadly dagger at the warrior. He sees his opening and slams the demon hunter hard against the floor. From an upside-down position, the hunter grins. He isn't done yet. Using heavy chains, he ensnares the warrior and yanks him forward with massive strength. You and I can see the surprise on his face. Is that really a chi chain? Upstairs, his partner yells out, wondering about all the crashing below. Panicked, he shouts for Daryl and the Paladin to stop their brawl downstairs. Pinned to the ground, the hunter finally surrenders. He admits rumors don't do this man justice, acknowledging him as a true, elite warrior. He figures the hunter has talent, but his personality? Totally irritating. Finally giving his name, Daryl admits he only puts in effort if the pay is right. Back with the team, he explains the Archbishop hand-picked this squad. Father Vandal deciphers ancient mysteries, while the Knight Cena handles the offensive magic. The hunter is confused by the cold vibe, realizing he totally misread the guy. Suddenly, he snaps the man's fingers, sending a jolt of agony through him. Clutching his mangled hand, the hunter screams, asking what he did to deserve that. He looks on, finding something about this man deeply disturbing and unpleasant. The hunter calls him master now, begging for guidance on the path ahead. He claims he's a jack of all trades, expert at tracking and brawling. In return, our hero introduces himself as a vanguard paladin wielding holy power. The squad is stunned, saying his future deeds might actually be written into the holy scriptures. After finishing the introductions, he notices the girl staring intensely. She is a mage, and he discovers she is actually Daryl's sister, Sane. Daryl boasts she is a top-tier mage, and that they are in for some big surprises. He's puzzled. If she's that powerful, why has he never heard her name before? When asked about their mentor, Daryl stays vague. He just smiles, saying the weird old man wasn't anything special to worry about. He stresses that since they'll be fighting alone, absolute trust is non-negotiable. But trusting Daryl is hard. He's hiding something. Plus, there is a disgusting stench in the air, like a demon is standing right there. His eyes glow a menacing red. He turns, telling Daryl they need to step outside for a second. Daryl is baffled by the sudden hostility. He tries to explain himself, but the paladin cuts him off before he can finish. Standing by the fire, he demands Daryl reveal his mentor's name right now. He lunges at the man, taking back his previous question. He finally knows why his skin is crawling. One drop of holy water will be more than enough. Trust me, you and I won't want to miss what this holy water reveals. The man screams in agony, and you and I see the truth. He is a half-breed with black blood. He asks how the man dares play human right in front of him. With a cruel smirk, he orders the mongrel to show his true, terrible form. Muffled and desperate, the man asks why his captor is not the one screaming in pain right now. Looking down at the broken man, he realizes this holy water is different. Writhing in agony, the man can only gasp out the name Sane. He hoists the man up, demanding clear answers. Then he drags himself to the door, shouting for Lord Eden to open the gate immediately. Lord Eden is annoyed by the interruption, but the voice on the other side insists that the situation is urgent. Stomping on the man, he reveals Daryl and Sane are demon half-breeds. Now watch closely, this is where the game's story shifts. A recurring catastrophe always happens here. Someone burns the church headquarters down to nothing but ash. The culprit behind the inferno was the powerful archmage Kadak, and he had one single, devastating reason for committing such a horrific act. Pure revenge fueled his fire. His hatred was born the moment the church exploited his disciples and then tossed them away like worthless trash. Back in the present, they claim to be guarding the siblings under the direct, secret orders of the archbishop. He reveals the truth. The archbishop expected him to dig up every single secret during this mission. She asks what the plan is for their future. The choice was left to him: either use them as tools or end their lives. But he makes one thing clear: he will have no part in their fate once this mission finally ends. From the floor, the man swears to turn this kingdom into a desert. Realizing the stakes, he knows he must be careful with these unknown adversaries. He barks out an order to bring Sane to him immediately. Desperate, the prisoner begs, crying that Lady Sane is completely innocent. Gripping the captive tight, he growls, "How dare you try to get in the way of my commands?" A guard steps up, noting that Sane is clueless about her half-breed nature. He adds that she has never shown any resistance to holy power. He admits that while Kadak might pull that off, Daryl remains a total, frustrating mystery to him. The scene shifts as a young man gushes over Lord Eden's combat. Suddenly, the female warrior speaks up, offering her brutally honest take. The girl points it out: these two are far closer to being humans than they are to demons. The Lord simply nods, admitting he feels for the siblings. He emphasizes that, despite everything, their blood is mostly human. Losing his cool, he ends the meeting abruptly. Once he's gone, the two approach the man still slumped on the cold floor. The boy enters, asking if Lord Eden is done talking. They walk through the room, feeling that something is very, very wrong here. Sensing the heavy tension, they ask us what everyone was talking about. Trying to soothe her, the young man promises everything will be fine. He tells her there is nothing to worry about. The girl watches in silence, processing the chaos. Suddenly, a memory flickers a voice, asking their master how they should proceed. In the past, he watched the siblings train. Witnessing her raw power, he notes she was born with a truly terrifying gift. While her brother cheers her on, the master confirms that she is a natural-born prodigy at magic. The master warns them that their gifts are dangerous. Curious, the boy asks if the master has any hidden powers of his own. Furious at the question, he lashes out, striking the boy for his blatant defiance. Night falls, painting the sky with stars beneath a massive moon. After a quick rest, his mind finally begins to clear. Lost in thought, he zeroes in on the true motive behind the horrific Kadak incident. He remembers the Archbishop's cold order: exploit the siblings, then kill them if necessary. He was told to handle the whole situation however he saw fit. Thinking of the knight and priest, he pities the siblings. To him, this whole mess is just one giant, illogical contradiction. He edges closer, quietly observing the two of them as they sit together just a few feet away. Continuing the tale, the young man explains their master vanished, leaving them to be hauled away by the church. He hangs on every word, soaking up the details. In a flashback, the Archbishop warns that their parents were guilty of unforgivable sins. He declares that their crimes were simply too massive to go unpunished. The girl questions why, but her brother just follows orders. Clutching her necklace, she whispers about a deal with a hero to save them. Seeing this, her brother stops her and tells her not to do it. With a smile, he keeps her quiet and asks what she was about to say. Flashback to the past, he tells her it's all a lie. Freedom earned through begging is nothing more than a hollow illusion. Staring at the stars, he realizes that Daryl is completely right about the nightmare they are in. He knows the church will never offer real forgiveness. Looking away, he admits he is likely the biggest hypocrite of them all. Trust me, even with his power and devotion, this whole story is ending in a total mess. Let's dive into a world where hypocrisy and fate collide, and it all starts with this boy. The girl says that necklace will finally set them free. Her brother says she's exactly like the hero their master described. Looking up at the open sky, she truly believes her brother's words. Suddenly, she shifts her gaze down to the mysterious object gripped in her hand. The necklace flares to life as she holds it tight. Stunned by the glow, Sane demands to know why this is happening right now. Completely caught off guard, the boy shouts. He can't believe it. Are Scene and Daryl actually half-breeds? He stands frozen as the Lord confirms the truth with a simple yes. Speechless, his mind reels from the weight of that shocking revelation. Time passes as everyone gets lost in their own thoughts. When the mission finally begins, he points out the location of the secret entrance. Asking for just one more minute, he tells the squad to gear up before they head inside. Right then, the girl walks up and pulls the Paladin aside for a private talk. He turns, ready to hear what she has to say. She reveals an ancient artifact she's been hiding this whole time. Recognizing the relic instantly, he asks if it belongs to the Pope. Thinking it over, the dark truth hits him. The Order isn't protecting these siblings, they're abandoning them completely. Now pay attention here, she says. The artifact has chosen him as its true master. She offers it up, pleading with him to take it. She explains that the gem only reacts to a hero who can bring freedom. She remembers her brother's warning, freedom isn't something you beg for. Handing him the necklace, she tells him it only started glowing after she met him. Stunned, he asks if that really happened just last night. He flashes back to when he was watching the siblings from the shadows. Looking at the relic, he wonders if it somehow sensed how much he pitied their situation. He knows Daryl would never surrender the necklace, but Sign is just an innocent child. With her secret kept, the item will now lead the way. He says if they try hard enough, maybe God will forgive their sins. He reflects on her words, realizing she's beyond any hope of salvation. Stealing his resolve, he prepares to move, but the girl's eyes are on him. He looks back and promises to reward her for this. Stepping up to the group, he shouts for everyone to listen up and focus. He explains the goal they need to shut down the catalyst for the summoning ritual. Laying out a map, he assigns everyone their specific routes. Pointing toward the ancient ruins, he tells them to meet back up at the rendezvous point. Finally, he reminds them the target is on the 3rd floor behind the altar. He gives the signal it's time to move out. As the transport starts, he silently prays they all make it back. Heading down to the 2nd floor, he walks the tomb's halls alone. Feeling the heavy energy in the air, he grumbles about how creepy this place actually feels. Suddenly, 2 men corner him and demand to know his business. He just glares at them, calling them nothing more than annoying insects. His real mission was to liberate the souls. The ritual was designed to weaken the demon by stripping away all the required sacrifices. Meanwhile, back on the 1st floor, Yuan looks like he's absolutely worried sick about something. I know what you're thinking, how did this guy end up here with these weirdos? A veteran approaches, asking if the rookie is ready. This isn't a game, and he knows it. Remembering the quiet half-breed, he tells himself he won't run away ever again. He yells at the group to work together and stop looking for a fight. One guy asks if they're hunters, but another just snaps. He takes off, blitzing through the hall at insane speeds. Watching him go, the other men wonder what his plan actually is. He screams over to Daryl, giving the order to pop the smoke bomb immediately. Nodding in sync, his partner gets ready to toss the device. With his speed, his job was to cover his partner and keep them safe. As the smoke fills the room, the enemies are left blinded and confused. Under cover, he pushes forward to take out the targets. Grabbing his partner, he says he found the catalyst and is going to handle it himself. He had to use holy water to wipe out the catalysts nearby. Clinging to the chain, he admits he was wrong about his partner. He looks at the young man and asks if he's actually brave enough to jump from this height. He rejects the holy water, so they both agree to ditch the area fast. Reaching the 3rd floor, she warns the ritual is starting. Horrified by the piles of sacrifices, his only task was to use the scroll and signal the rest of the team. Protecting the squad, the warrior tells him to move. Reading the scroll, he gets ready to light up the communication circle. Spotting the signal, they realize it's time to regroup. Stepping into the darkness, he finally lays eyes on the cursed altar. Without warning, he tenses up, sensing something extremely strange lurking in the shadows nearby. He walks down the long corridor, feeling the dark ritual finally come to life. Collapsed on the ground, everything now depends on Sign. Stick around, the final strike starts now. Alright, stick with me because we're about to see a warrior scream at Sane to act while she freezes up against this massive, terrifying ritual. Watching her hesitate, the warrior doesn't wait, he charges straight into the encroaching nightmare. Every eye snaps to the same spot in total horror. Finally, rising from the smoke and ruin, the great demon makes its grand entrance. He roars over the barrier, yelling that they desperately need the Paladin's holy strength now. She panics, warning that the ritual will finish too soon. But then, the Paladin appears out of nowhere, promising that everything is under control. Turns out, this dark summoning requires 2 specific groups of human sacrifices to work. One group for the start, one for the end, but he already swapped them and smashed the catalysts. With the plan rolling, he has to rescue the victims to make this whole summoning fail. He barks out orders, telling Daryl to stay close while the rest of the team provides cover. The team doesn't hesitate, immediately following his lead. But the warrior spots a problem, the barrier is still standing. He doesn't care they aren't retreating. He tells Sane to use her magic to actually help the ritual along. Wait, what? Now watch this. Sane screams that he's lost his mind for trying to summon a demon. He asks for her trust, claiming the old master's necklace chose him for this. Confused, she just stares, completely lost for words. Taking a heavy step forward, he braces himself for the absolute war that's about to erupt. He bolts toward the enemy as spells fly his way. Side by side, the two warriors sprint directly into the heart of battle. As the power surges, he admits he's still unsure of what to do with young Daryl. The kid's situation is a tragedy, but emotions are a liability here. One tiny mistake? That's all it takes to die. Seeing that woman's face in his mind, he remembers his true mission to pass judgment on absolute evil. Emotions have to go. To save them both, he'll take Daryl and figure out a justification for it later. Even if it's just to satisfy his own soul, he needs a reason. As the demons close in, he readies his blade. With a primal roar, he lets every ounce of his hidden power explode at once. One swing pulverizes a dozen monsters, but then he sees a new threat and screams Daryl's name in pure desperation. Daryl hits the dirt, hearing that he's got to prove his worth if he wants a future with Sane. Slashing through monsters, he wonders what happens if he fails. Surrounded by floating daggers, he questions his own value. You saw that too, right? He screams that the Paladin underestimated him and lunges forward using the blades as stepping stones. The cultists are panicking, wondering how the Paladins found their hole. Elsewhere, reports flood in that every hidden group is compromised. She calls out to the Paladin, telling him it's okay before throwing up a massive protective shield. The cult leader is already celebrating, claiming the summoning is imminent. Suddenly, a figure gets yanked violently into the swirling portal. Swearing to put the demon down for good, he charges forward with his sword to end this nightmare. One perfect strike obliterates the beast before it even fully forms. Everyone just stands there, stunned by the Paladin's raw power. Daryl grumbles that Yuan is way too reckless and seriously needs to learn how to land a jump. He just watches everything with a deadly serious face. Then, the cult leader starts laughing. The real summoning worked. Gripping his hilt, he shifts into a combat stance to face that massive, blood-red monster. Saying that was his line, he drops to one knee on the blood-soaked earth. He forces himself up, channeling everything into his blade. The giant demon lets out a furious roar, screaming curses at the puny human standing before it. Sane screams about the sacrifices, rushing to protect the kids. The half-formed monster growls, demanding to know where they hid its food. Now that the kids are safe and hidden, he's got one job left: kill the monster. He sees the beast rising and yells to the Paladin as it takes flight. The demon soars higher, charging up one final deadly move. The Paladin roars for Daryl to lunge out and grab onto the flying demon's leg. He says he'll handle the beast alone and tells the others to evacuate the children. They nod, moving out of the danger zone fast. High above, the demon unleashes a massive wave of power, sending a violent gale screaming downward. Fighting the wind, he struggles to keep his footing. He shouts for Daryl to use his chains to lock the beast down. Daryl whips the chains out, obeying the command perfectly. He holds the monster tight while the Paladin shouts that he's doing great. Even through the pain, he knows he has to sever the creature's spinal cord to win this. Daryl yells for him to aim higher. He starts the count, and you and I are about to see if one hit is enough. All right, you and I are jumping right into a high-stakes monster hunt. He leaps forward, slamming a heavy blow right into the demon's back. But the cut is too shallow. He groans that his strike barely scratched the beast. Going undercover has its downsides. He's really regretting leaving his sacred sword behind just to keep his disguise intact. The demon is furious. How dare these pathetic little insects wound it? It screams at them, asking if they really think they can just stand there after that. The monster lets out an earth-shattering roar, promising to tear them both limb from limb without a shred of mercy. It lunges with a flurry of attacks, craving sacrifices to stay alive. Suddenly, Daryl shouts, a warning: the beast is heading straight for the city. They can only watch as the demon takes flight, soaring off to find fresh victims in the nearby town. Is this monster actually smart enough to retreat? If they don't stop it now, he knows the city is about to become a total bloodbath. He watches the beast vanish into the clouds. We have to stop that thing before it reaches the civilian population. As the city looms ahead, he barks an order to Daryl: take out those wings. They need to force a crash landing on the outskirts. He trusts his partner to handle the air while he finds a way to finish the job. Meanwhile, over in Sangol, everything seems peaceful. But then, the townsfolk look up. They see something massive moving through the clouds and have no idea what's coming. Check this out: they see a bright light and actually think it's a divine sign. But one man sees the danger and screams for everyone to run. The creature drops lower, and the harsh reality hits: it's a demon. Panic explodes instantly as people scramble for their lives, screaming for help. Someone notices a strange glow building up inside the monster's mouth. Arrogant, isn't it, thinking it's already won? The Paladin yells for his partner. Daryl shouts back, asking if he's ready to launch their counterattack. He's ready. Daryl unleashes a hail of daggers, explaining the delay was because he had to prep the special poison. He flings the venomous blades with perfect aim, confirming that their trap is finally in motion. The daggers hit home. The monster screams in agony before plummeting from the sky and smashing into the dirt with a massive thud. Upon impact, the beast starts to disintegrate, kicking up a thick cloud of dark, suffocating dust. The citizens stare in shock, unable to process the carnage. Then, through the smoke and fire, the paladin slowly walks toward them. With one final, decisive swing, he puts an end to whatever was left of that nightmare. He shears the air with his sword, posing like a true legend under the light of the full moon. You and I can see it on his face, the battle is finally over. But the war isn't finished elsewhere. The rest of the team is busy fending off waves of smaller monsters that keep appearing. Their warrior charges straight in, spinning her blade in a deadly dance that carves through the creatures like butter. But they just keep coming. She grits her teeth, watching a fresh pack of demons advance for another strike. After escaping that tomb, it feels like they've traded one trap for an endless ocean of monsters. He notices Cinny is starting to flag her movements are getting slow and heavy. He looks around at his exhausted team, wondering how they'll survive this. Suddenly, a warrior gets hit and goes down screaming. But just in time, Lord Eden thunders onto the battlefield on his horse. The kid screams in relief, "Lord Eden is here. This is the moment they've been waiting for. We need to fight until the very end." He bellows to his troops, ordering the total and complete annihilation of every demon in sight. He spurs his horse forward, shouting for them to wipe out the enemy. Meanwhile, a messenger rushes into the capital with urgent news. The Archbishop pauses, giving the frantic messenger the green light to deliver his report. The news is huge. Eden has personally slain the mighty Manticore. The Archbishop actually laughs, calling the feat absolutely incredible. On top of that, word comes in that the cultists and their demon summons have been completely wiped out. Now, the Judgment Unit is moving in to round up the survivors. But she can't help but wonder, what are they going to do with Lord Eden? Where does that kind of power even come from? Back at the camp, they're busy thanking Eden for his massive help. He plays it cool, saying he hasn't done nearly enough to deserve all this praise. Then, he asks about the status of the rescued children. The warrior explains they had to make tough calls to stop a bigger catastrophe, and asks for his forgiveness. He tries to ease her guilt, telling her she saved so many lives today. He takes the weight of it, saying the final responsibility rests on him alone. Thinking about the value of a life, he admits he has no right to judge anyone. Still, his eyes show he's fully committed to his next move. He issues a final order to transfer the criminals as soon as the Ascendant arrives on site. He tells the group to hold down the fort until he gets back. The young man tells him not to worry, the two siblings will be safe. With a respectful nod, the warrior tells him it was a genuine honor to fight by his side. He praises them for protecting the weak and keeping their oath. And trust me, you and I are definitely going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are diving back into a story where choices carry heavy consequences, and the Manticore is finally dead. Looking toward the future, he realizes he must fully accept the consequences of every choice he makes from here on out. He takes full responsibility for the 6 lives lost, carrying that heavy weight on his own shoulders. The group moves silently through the dense forest as the girl watches the Paladin riding ahead, leading their way. Struck by his power, she wonders if he is the hero her master mentioned. The Paladin glances back, questioning her earlier comment. As they ride, Daryl admits the mission was a success, but he still cannot wrap his head around the Paladin. Memories of the past flood back, reminding him how much he hated himself for having mixed blood. The girl asks her brother if they should escape. Daryl makes a face to cheer her up, but his companion tells him to stop. Ignoring the joke, the young man stays dead serious. The Paladin provokes him, leaving Daryl wondering why he is starting trouble. Speaking of the Order, he warns them about the harsh reality they will face once they actually arrive. Now, watch this. He tells them directly that both will definitely die, leaving the siblings completely frozen by the terrifying declaration they just heard. He begs the Paladin to spare his sister. In return, the Paladin promises to help them both live as normal humans. In total disbelief, he asks what it even means to live like a normal, everyday human. He doubts the Paladin, questioning whether they can actually put any trust in the Order. The Paladin says they proved their skills and he owes them. He asks if that is not reason enough to help them, promising he will come back for them later. Shifting back to the Empire, we see the grand office of the great Archbishop Teen. Arriving there, he reports the mission was a success, though he admits he intentionally disobeyed his direct orders. Gauging the reaction, he thinks he might need to pivot. He hopes the Archbishop has some real insight into the situation. The Archbishop mentions he lost prestige by forming the team. Faced with this complaint, Eden remains calm. He gives a sharp answer, but the Archbishop admits the result is worth more and praises him for his good work. Thanking him for the praise, Eden says it makes it much easier to maintain his peaceful act. The Archbishop asks about the siblings, and he assures him he will be keeping a close eye on them. Surprised by the choice, he asks about the Inquisitor, but Eden says he cannot go. Extending his hand, he promises to be just as sincere as the Archbishop. You see what's happening? He is testing Eden's loyalty by asking him to join his cause. Eden places a hand on his chest, vowing to eradicate demons. The Archbishop notes that such determination and talent are desirable. He touches Eden on the shoulder, saying he respects the weight of the choice he has just made. The Archbishop mentions the Saintess is looking for him. Eden recalls only receiving her blessing before quickly leaving her presence. In another flash of memory, he remembers intentionally ignoring her and putting the whole meeting off. With a hand on his head, he says finding the Saintess right now will be a difficult task. But the Archbishop informs him she arrived just in time. He then leaves the two of them alone so they can finally speak. She says he is hard to track down and apologizes for being rude. She notices he seems uncomfortable with her presence. Confirming her suspicion, he admits that he feels incredibly uncomfortable with everything going on right now. Hearing his confirmation, she stares at him in silence. Using her power, she confirms he is telling the absolute truth. Her power detects lies in every direction. Confused, she asks why he feels so uneasy being around her. He then explains that the real problem is the overwhelming power of the mind's eye. He says it must be difficult, but she insists she does not hate him. She still wants to know the real reason. Stepping forward, he says he has something else to ask. Looking into his eyes, she asks if he worships the sun god. With his back turned to her, he says the question came much sooner than he had anticipated. Clenching his fist, he prepares to answer. He says no, but that this conversation is absolutely necessary to have now. Denying that he worships the god, he is then asked why he is spreading those specific teachings. She realizes his words that day were actually true. He confirms that the teachings about helping the weak are correct. She points out the contradiction. He asks if she has ever believed in the teachings of other great philosophers. With his fist clenched, he tells her that doing good is nothing more than a personal choice. She then questions if Vakar is truly nothing more than just another great philosopher in his eyes. And that leaves us with a question you and I have to think about: if God is really omnipotent, why is this world so full of pain? Let's dive into a story where even the sharpest minds play a dangerous game together. The Archbishop enters, asking the Saintess if their talk went well, but the heavy tension in the room is impossible to ignore. She turns away without a word, simply stating that he has already left her presence. As he crosses the bridge, he knows she'll be quiet for now. Their talk held a secret that could change everything. It's a truth so massive it could shatter the foundation of their entire powerful religious order. He didn't want to deal with this mess. But in the game's original timeline, Uriel was completely broken by these very questions. Information can only be unlocked by the main character, Eden, while the cult's demon remains a massive, dark secret. Simply mentioning it puts his life in danger, so he must force the game's broken flow back into the right direction. Suddenly, a man approaches, bowing low and greeting Lord Eden as he arrives on the scene. He explains he found Yuan while passing by. Apologizing for his earlier rudeness, he changes his attitude and states he is heading for the north. He's eager for the story, but the man warns him that the north is currently the most dangerous place to be. Because of the chaos, they need someone to monitor the situation. The north will turn into a literal hell if the beasts invade. Rushing toward the ruins, he uses a high-grade magical gem that traps intense heat. Inside the frozen forest, now pay attention, Yuan is shivering, realizing that while heat is bearable, this freezing cold is another story. Shivering, he finally gets what the locals meant. He points into the distance, asking if Lord Eden sees that cabin. He recognizes it instantly. That's the exact spot marked out on Daryl's old map. Suddenly, he screams in a panic. There's a body in the snow, and they realize it is Daryl himself. Daryl lies there unconscious as the snow piles up. A stranger appears, demanding to know who they are and why they are here. He arrives quickly, worriedly asking if his master was the one who took the man down. A warrior demands to know if the man on the ground is their friend. His ally tells Lord Eden they need to prepare. The young assistant is totally lost, calling out to his lord as the tension hits its peak. Standing beside his horse, he formally introduces himself as Paladin Eden, explaining that Daryl is doing fine and was sent there by him. Just then, another man walks up, saying they've been expecting the whole group to arrive. You and I both know this mystery is getting deeper as they head inside the snowy mountain cabin. Inside, an old man notes how fast Eden has climbed the ranks and made a name for himself. The confused assistant interrupts, asking who this mysterious person sitting at the table with them actually is. Eden reveals the truth. This is Gillen Fenrir, the legendary sword saint. They need to know why Daryl was left outside. He gestures to his brother, who is outside training in the freezing snow. This brutal routine is his daily life. Eden sighs, noting how Kaidok ruined him, and wonders what those mages are really plotting this time. He observes that Gillen hasn't changed, still raising heirs who are destined to become absolute legends. Gillen calls them fools, not disciples. As Kaidok's old friend, He is the legendary iron wall that protects the entire northern border from danger. He shifts in his seat, his expression darkening as he prepares to change the subject. He shuts down the small talk. Staring Eden down, he asks why the brothers were sent to his hidden cabin. Eden doesn't blink. He did it to keep them safe and hide them from their enemies. Regarding their lives, Eden says the answer is in the ruins. That's where he hid them, and Gillen calls him bold. Even without his magical necklace, Gillen can tell this paladin is unlike anyone he's ever met. He leaves him with a chilling warning. Don't let your guard down, not even for a second. A group struggles through heavy snow. Complaining about the cold, they are warned to stay alert in this extremely dangerous region. He brushes it off, laughing that Yuan is probably freezing to death after they abandoned him back there. But the Sword Saint's warning echoes in his mind. Never get complacent, or it will be your last mistake. Looking serious, he knows he's still too weak. These ancient ruins will be a total nightmare to conquer. Shaking off the doubt, he thanks his master for the wisdom and the harsh lesson. Gillen says the servant will die if he goes, but Eden insists he will find a way to make him useful. As they set off into the blizzard, you and I are about to see if they survive the journey and his promise. Let's dive in as he concentrates on the small object in his hands. Survival is his only goal, and he won't stop growing. Then, he fires a massive energy blast straight into the clouds. Meanwhile, the rest of the group hears a warning about the region of perpetual snow. He worries about the gem, but the freezing cold is the real threat. Suddenly, a violent snowstorm hits them with full force. In the whiteout, he senses something coming fast. He screams a warning a beast is close and orders Daryl to strike right now. He hurls a dagger, knowing the enemy will react in a heartbeat. Out of nowhere, several more blades fly out to meet his attack. The daggers cut through the snow toward the hidden monster. His companion shouts one of the blades is flying right at the Lord. The beast's weak point is its neck. With a massive spin, he puts everything into throwing his sword at the creature. His armor is already scratched. This isn't going to be an easy win. Sane realizes they can solve this with the magic gem. Now watch this part carefully. She activates the item to flood the area with a massive explosion of light. With the light back, the trio finally prepares for the real fight. Massive paws emerge as a voice mocks them. The creature reveals itself, noting 2 foul smells and 1 holy paladin. He smells a demon and tells Daryl to focus everything on the offense. Daryl leaps into the air for a heavy strike. While the Lord distracts it, the other ally sets up his next move. He takes the chance and rains a flurry of daggers down on the beast. The daggers sink in, wounding the monster. Furious, she screams that they're forcing her hand and vows to help. The beast charges forward, deciding to take out the paladin first. Daryl screams for his lord, but it's too late. A massive pillar of ice and rock erupts from the ground. The attack lands, trapping the paladin deep inside the massive ice structure. The beast looks down, calling him a coward for hiding. She promises to make him regret every single choice. Pinned to the ground, the paladin stares up at the creature, totally helpless. She repeats that he's going to regret everything. Lying there in the snow, he just watches the creature looming over him. He's completely overpowered now. She mocks him, asking if he finally sees the massive gap in their power. Suddenly, her smug smile vanishes as she spots something she didn't expect. Can you believe that? To her utter shock, she realizes her own hand drove the dagger into herself. With a cold look, he asks if she'll keep talking nonsense. He slams her down, saying she won't use her mouth again. She's pinned to the dirt, trying to speak before being totally crushed. Glancing at his blades, he notes the mind control only lasted for a second. She explodes in rage, screaming not to underestimate her. But then, a powerful blast hits her dead center. A new voice enters, tired of the talking. The mysterious figure says all that effort was for nothing. The creature realizes this whole mess is just bringing back bad memories. Shocked, she sees her tail was sliced off without her even noticing. He tells her to give up. His friends shout from afar while he claims mercy as a luxury. He sees blood trails staining the snow. They find the paladin standing over the body of the defeated monster. The beaten beast watches them arrive. As he ties her up, he says they're just in time and everyone hates him. He warns that sympathy is expensive and strikes the creature again. Seeing the blood, his friends are terrified, but he tells them to leave now. The companion insists the Lord Paladin needs to get his wound treated. They suggest heading to a cabin for help, but he refuses. He explains that his body heals at an incredible speed. The deep cut on his arm is terrifying, but it heals right before their eyes. They call him chosen. He just smiles. It's all about high stats. Trust me, you and I need to see what's next. The air is getting warmer, so they have to hurry. She wonders if leopards are usually solitary. Still serious, he keeps scanning the area, watching for any hidden threats. All right, you and I are diving into a story where apex predators are the exception, never migrating even in the harshest winter. He looks up, catching something strange unfolding in the mountain sky. Pointing toward the horizon, he notes the unusual activity, but tells them to ignore it for now and stay focused on their mission. Hearing his command, the young woman keeps her eyes glued to that distant horizon. He steps closer, resting a hand on her head, telling the confused girl that many people truly care about her. With a grave look, he tells her to remember that truth, no matter what. She nods silently as the group picks up the pace through the heavy snow. As they sprint across the peaks, one companion can't help but notice the bizarre shifting of the sky above them. Suddenly stopping, the paladin wonders what on earth is he feeling. Two shadows loom atop a massive cliff. He feels the hail and wonders if he's just being paranoid in this freezing cold. His companion points out something terrifying. The hail is only falling on the Lord Paladin. Nose bleeding, he says God does not have much to do with this. He's called rude, but the paladin tells him to look around. Now watch this part because the girl you and I see is becoming something else entirely. Head down. She whispers her disgust for everything. Self-loathing consumes her, as she wonders how this nightmare happened so suddenly. Recalling the beast, she remembers exactly what was said about the three of them. Clutching her staff, she prays her brother is safe while replaying the snow leopard's chilling words in her mind. Memories of her parents, master, and sins flood back as a dark voice whispers that neither sibling will survive this journey ahead. The warning rings in her ears they will both die, reaching that feared order. Suddenly, a scaly hand brushes her face. Terrified, she remembers the heavy sin they committed in the dark past. The paladin explains she's finally awakening as they draw closer to the ancient ruins. Destiny can be broken if she finds her true self. Flashback to the moment Sin lost every single thing she knew. Her world literally falls apart as she stands amidst total and absolute destruction. Seeing her struggle, he stops her, yelling that the process has begun. It's too dangerous to stay, so they must move now, even if he has to carry her. Far away, the young assistant watches the sky with a growing sense of dread. With a hardened gaze, he makes his choice. Suddenly, two figures crash down from the sky, slamming into the snow with a heavy impact. Their arrival sends a powerful vibration rippling through the frozen ground beneath them. Startled, he wonders if those tremors came from a group of powerful demigods. Telling them to ignore it, he orders a sprint toward the light. Why did the girl's seizure have to start so suddenly? In agony, her skin begins to harden into scales. Crying and screaming, the transformation tears across her entire trembling body. At that exact moment, a pack of snow leopards charges toward them. You and I saw this coming, right? A mysterious figure begins to float as something darker than leopards emerges. A warrior leaps from a giant sword atop the cliff, charging into the horde and striking down every leopard at once. He can feel an incredibly intimidating aura radiating from this new, mysterious figure. One look at the newcomer confirms this is no ordinary opponent to cross paths with. The two warriors face off amidst the blizzard, ready for war. Surrounded by the pack, the man keeps his eyes locked on his distant rival. He knows a pack of leopards alone is a massive problem. But handling this newcomer? That's a whole different level of danger. A voice tells him not to be so tense. The man claims now isn't the time for blood. His companion suggests retreat, but he decides to wait and watch. He tells the leopards the duel is over, the demi-human lost. He warns that the paladin would take heavy damage here. Why waste vital energy now when the real fight is still ahead? Defeated on the ground, the creature laughs mockingly, telling him he should consider himself very lucky. He forces the pack to retreat, then stares at the peaks, noting the strange event taking place. Craving answers, he realizes he has no choice but to walk away for now. Practicality must come before these useless and totally meaningless disputes. Ending the talk, he warns they must prepare for what's coming. With a final goodbye, he promises they'll meet again. As they leave, trust me, you and I are wondering who that guy really was. Alright, you and I are diving into a world where frost and war go hand in hand. Several demi-human races live in these snows, divided by clashing beliefs and rival gods. Every so often, a beast king rises to unite them all through sheer force. A unified demi-human army is a nightmare for everyone. Looking at the signs, he warns that a massive war is just around the corner. He understands their hatred, but the timing is totally off. According to his memories, the Beast King shouldn't be born for a long time. It was the ultimate evil boss, a difficulty wall that made countless players just quit the game. His partner asks if that guy was the real deal. Brushing it off, he prepares to unlock the ruins through the Great Passage. With one massive strike, he shatters the colossal wall of ice blocking their path. Holding the artifact, he calls upon his master, Elohim Dirk. He channels divine power, ordering the ancient ruins to finally reveal the way inside. The light is blinding, forcing his companion to shield her eyes from the intense glow. As a bridge of light forms, he charges across it alone. Once at the top, his blade clicks into the stone gate to activate it. He slots the crystal key into place, triggering the mechanism. A massive magic circle glows on the floor as the ritual to open the door begins. Now pay attention, as a voice booms. Who dares to defile this great palace? They step into the sanctuary of the ancient hero, Arhan. Now that they're inside, he tells his partner to keep their guard up no matter what. The hero sits on his throne, asking if he is the one the necklace chose. He bluntly answers that his name is Eden, and nothing more. Arhan notes his rudeness, calling him more of a butcher. Eden cuts to the chase, demanding to start the test and claim the treasure already. The hero asks if the girl is just there for sympathy. Eden is confident, but Arhan still questions their true motives. He simply explains that he promised to give them a normal, human life. Hearing that, the hero understands the drive behind his actions. He calls the kid bold and gets ready to kick off the great test. Inside a massive, desolate arena, the two sides face off across a huge distance. Under a blood-red moon, monsters start crawling out of the earth. The hero warns them death in this test is permanent. With the girl bound, the hero says they must fight to survive. The group readies themselves for the ultimate challenge. Stopping his ally, he tells him not to let his emotions cloud his judgment. He warns that victory brings a treasure that changes destiny itself. Flashbacks show that the gem had already revealed what's truly at stake. Knowing this, he prepares to go all out with every ounce of strength. Suddenly, his body begins a dark and agonized transformation. He shifts into his sentinel demon beast form, known as Daryl. You saw that, right? The Seeker of Destruction reacts instantly to the siblings' demonic bloodline. Thanking her, he notes that he just shaved 5 years off the total waiting time. As the girl screams in pain, he dives into the chaotic battle. His stats soar, and he smiles, saying it's time to pay his debts. Feeling his intent peak, he lunges forward with overwhelming force, tearing through the wave of monsters. He moves like a blur, cutting down enemies with precision. Then, a massive beast emerges from the shadows to crush him. Continuing the slaughter, he stays agile, dancing around the giant monster's heavy swings. From above, the hero watches the bloodbath unfold. Eden leaps high, preparing a devastating blow against the towering demonic creature. The hero is impressed. He knew Eden was strong, but this is a whole other level. The strikes are getting faster and more lethal. Remembering how weak he once was, Arhan wonders where this power came from. Thinking back, he still can't figure out where a guy like this actually appeared from. He notes the monster buff is working well, pushing their power through the roof. He even praises the creature's performance. Wiping blood from his brow, he says it's about time the real fight finally showed up. Amidst a mountain of corpses, he stands tall. Suddenly, a mysterious figure slams down onto the center of the bloody battlefield. A flashback begins, telling the tale of Arhan, the hero who never lost to demons. Demons kidnapped his lover to break him, but because she was half demon, no one in the world would come to his aid. In the end, Arhan watched his beloved die tragically right in his arms. Consumed by hate, he was imprisoned forever by a demon named Brittany. He ended up suffering the same fate as his lover. Meeting a pathetic end, he traded his very life to seal away space and time. Stick with me, this is just a taste of the chaos. All these demons are real, and Arhan wants to see how much Eden can handle. Alright, you and I are watching a powerhouse who is finally done playing with weaklings. He summons Brittany, the demon of appetite, declaring that things are finally getting fun. Across the arena, the girl watches, seemingly in total agreement with the chaos unfolding. A sudden flashback hits as she remembers always being targeted by those cold, judgmental stares. Her brother was always a bit strange, but he promised to protect her from everything. That is when she realized the world hated them for being half demons. From across the distance, he shouts out, desperate to know if his sister can hear his voice. Choking back tears, she cries out that fate is set in stone. He roars back that she is dead wrong and should never believe in that garbage. To keep her motivated, he reminds her that Nari promised them a normal human life. Desperate to snap her out of it, he screams for her to wake up. Hearing his voice, she finally lifts her head from where she is bound and faces him. Hovering above the beast, Eden mocks Derek, laughing at how dramatic and poetic his words are. Pay attention here, because this final test against Brittany is a two-part strategy. One fights while the other destroys the altar feeding the beast. As the creature lunges, he leaps high to avoid those massive, gnashing demonic mouths. The hero bellows Derek's name while the arena turns into a war zone. Locking in, he sharpens his focus, preparing for the most dangerous phase. The monster actually speaks, asking if killing this guy will finally set them all free. With a smirk, he confirms their freedom and readies his next move. The beast grows restless, snapping at him for just standing there and wasting time. With one clean swing of his blade, he cleaves through one of the monster's heads, but the demon just regenerates instantly, attacking again with its swarm of mouths. He mutters that the sensation of cutting through its flesh is absolutely disgusting. Right after the slice, the monster's head just regrows, appearing right back in its place. He realizes divine power cannot stop this regeneration. Ordering his ally to clear a path, he gets ready to tear Derek away from that cursed altar. The demonic creature and its swarm of minions surge forward, charging straight at the Paladin. He lets out a roar, demanding the massive beast swallow him whole in this showdown. Trust me, it sounds insane, but getting swallowed is actually the core of his plan. Once inside, the demon's healing factor will lock his hook firmly into place. To get out, he explains he needs someone pulling with extreme force from outside. Trapped deep inside the monster, he prepares to bury his weapon into its guts. Analyzing his options, he decides this specific weapon is his best bet. With a single, powerful thrust, he drives the scythe deep into the monster's internal walls. Confirming the trap is set, he signals that the hook is now firmly in place. He shouts that it is time to drag this beast away from the altar. Suddenly, a massive blast of light erupts, blowing back every creature nearby. From the inside, the rope snaps tight, yanking hard against the creature's inner flesh. Tossed around like a rag doll, he feels the bone-shattering impact of the force. Outside, his friend joins the fray, hammering the monster's main body with everything. He holds on for dear life inside as the plan unfolds. Gritting his teeth, he screams through the agony while gripping his weapon tight. We see the scythe's blade buried deep within the monster's flesh. Fully healed, the monster opens its jaws to devour the paladin. He tells Derek to focus on the altar while he keeps the beast busy. Shifting into his serpent form, Derek streaks toward the massive altar. Using every ounce of his strength, he slams his body directly into the structure. The impact is massive, and visible cracks finally begin to spiderweb across the altar's surface. Suddenly, a magic circle glows as several ethereal swords materialize around the demonic creature. As the ritual breaks, the creature returns to its natural form. The monster's countless mouths begin to shriek in a chorus of pure agony. Writhing in pain, the monster's massive body slowly begins to crumble and fall apart. He declares the monster is finished and tells them to rescue the girl. Meanwhile, the hero watches the duo finish off the multi-mouthed nightmare. Seeing the monster struggle, he prepares his final, decisive strike to end this fight. He realizes that without a food source, the monster has started consuming itself. The creature's mouths begin to frantically devour one another in a desperate frenzy. Watching the carnage, he explains that the beast has entered a state of complete self-destruction. The hero stares at the now empty battlefield, stunned by the outcome. He is shocked that the main character pinpointed every single monster weakness so quickly. Holding his loved one close, he admits he really thought he would fail again. With a faint smile, he says he is finally letting go of his hatred. Suddenly, his expression shifts to one of total confusion and shock. His partner then tells him to bring the treasure closer. Back at the cabin, the scene shifts to the snowy mountains outside on the ground. And that's where we leave it. Our young assistant fails his training once again. Alright, you and I are diving into a story where a weak disciple is about to uncover a legendary secret. Suddenly, a mysterious voice mocks his effort, catching him off guard. He scans the forest, wondering if some stranger has been watching his every move. He stumbles upon a hooded figure and demands an identity. Smiling, the stranger introduces himself as Geomian, the disciple of the legendary Gilan. He offers a helping hand, promising to personally demonstrate a high-level technique to the young trainee. Deep in the woods, the boy swings his sword, struggling to even chip the heavy logs. His master walks up, noting his improved form. He vividly recalls the day he found the boy nearly dead, buried under a pile of freezing snow. Stuttering, the young man tries to explain the impossible. He tells his master about a mysterious figure who trained him inside a dream. He asks his master for the truth, only to find out there are no other disciples around. He goes quiet, realizing that dream felt far too real to be fake. Seeing the progress, his master decides to crank up the training intensity. Watch closely as a man arrives at the ruins of an ancient sanctuary. Inside, a priest vows to purge the demon blood from his veins. He explains how the sins of their ancestors are passed down through the ages. Interrupting the scripture, he bitterly complains about the unfair fate of future generations. He asks why things are so complicated if all sins are eventually forgiven in the end anyway. The priest reveals the truth. The man's siblings are actually eligible. Hearing the explanation, the man just listens with a knowing smile. Inside a private room, a man drops to his knees, screaming about a rookie paladin. He keeps shouting, asking who they can possibly trust if the paladins fail them now. He warns that the entire group will not let this slide quietly. Staring at the paper, he wonders if it is just trash. Meanwhile, at the sanctuary, a man claims Nari is no ordinary paladin. Shocked by the news, the priest barks Derek's name. He shoves a document forward, ordering Derek to seal it with a blood mark. Without hesitation, the young man presses his finger firmly against the official paper. The priest turns, announcing it is finally Sane's turn. With a faint smile, Sane just stares him down without saying a single word. Let's watch this ritual reach its peak together as the siblings float, completely engulfed by glowing, ancient scriptures that fill the room. Cien remains suspended in the air as the ritual proceeds. Glowing marks appear on their faces as they absorb the power. Once it's finished, the priest stares at the pair with an intense, unblinking gaze. As the holy ritual concludes, the two siblings stand perfectly still right next to each other. He looks at them, declaring that God has officially granted them forgiveness. As a witness, he vows to prove their innocence to the entire church. Seeing them both burst into tears, the paladin simply asks what caused such a reaction. The older brother says everything finally makes sense. He wonders how he could ever repay the overwhelming kindness they have been shown. Grabbing the paladin, the young man gets incredibly emotional and pours his heart out to him. He replies that it wasn't an official order. Clearly embarrassed, he pets the girl's head, saying he just had to make this choice. He tells her that sometimes making exceptions is okay. Sensing the heavy mood, the brother calls out to his little sister. Bowing his head low, the young man thanks the paladin for saving them both. The paladin asks him to stop, feeling awkward. The young man insists he knows exactly who he must repay this debt to. Dropping to one knee, he pledges his life and death to his new master. Offering his blade, he asks for his oath to be accepted. Unsure of what to do, the paladin reflects on how he never expected things to go this far. Placing a hand on his, he tells the boy to leave everything to him. The young man warns that the denomination still won't accept them. He adds that while it seems wrong now, he has massive potential to grow into someone strong. With a warm smile, the paladin listens as the boy promises to become a powerful asset. Thanking him for the chance, he hears the paladin tell him to train hard. He tells the girl not to feel indebted. She reveals that her own master predicted she would one day become a legendary archmage. Bowing, she declares her own will to follow the paladin. Seeing her raw talent, he realizes having them together would be a massive help. Agreeing with the plan, the new group begins following the paladin down the long, dim hallway. Suddenly, a man with red hair stops the paladin. He mocks him for his own past failure and mentions a scroll meant for someone else. He denies the current reality, saying he wasn't just asking for water. He claims that now, they are coming for everything else too. Totally fed up, he screams that this entire task was never supposed to be his problem. The paladin tells him to be happy and find his beloved. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see the fallout of this ridiculous mess. Alright, stick with me because he starts by accusing the paladin of never actually being in love, saying he must only know how to miss someone. But he warns that this lingering feeling has rotted into hatred, slowly eating away at his heart. The paladin simply closes his eyes for a second, quietly agreeing with the brutal truth. Assuming the paladin has his own baggage, he tells them to shut it, and reveals a small object. The item transforms into a floating massive weapon, a legendary artifact known as the Gargantuan Sword. Watching the siblings react, he notes that this treasure is far too precious for his own hands. Smiling, the paladin notes that while the spear is nice, the chest is better, and then it finally opens for them. The paladin raises his hands, making a golden object hover, as he confidently claims he is doing fine. The red-haired man recognizes his talent, revealing the item is a divine egg that will hatch a unicorn. He explains that the egg resonates with whoever survives the trial, hatching almost immediately after. Arhan expected a celestial horse, but the egg suddenly explodes, meaning something completely different is being born. The scene shifts to an open field, as the group treks through a massive mountainous terrain. Back at the base, the master reunites with his disciple and simply notes that the boy has returned. He notices the crew and remarks that the young man brought back a bizarre crowd, admitting that even in his long life, he is genuinely impressed. Now pay attention here, the master steps forward and asks what exactly went down inside those ruins. Rewinding a few hours, the egg hatches into a small unipeg. The strongest mythical beast has finally arrived. It turns out unicorns can purify energy, while Pegasi have the legendary gift of flight. Stroking the creature, he realizes a unipeg has both powers. It can fly and purify without any limits. The man looks at him in disbelief, asking if he was truly handpicked by the gods themselves. One guy tries to pet the beast and gets bitten, serves him right for touching a mythical creature. A heated argument breaks out as the two start trading insults and taunts back and forth. Telling them to stop, the paladin looks him in the eye and asks for the item he possesses. Realizing the stakes, the man asks how much he truly knows, demanding he swear a sacred oath on Vicheka. He refuses the oath, saying he cannot do that, making the man suspect he knows too much. He admits the item is useless to him, yet he still refuses to just hand it over. The paladin clenches his fist, then opens it to reveal a mysterious orb while asking to stay remembered. Curious about its potential, he accepts the item and promises never to forget this massive favor. Opening a portal, he turns his back and tells everyone it is time for them to leave. He tells the girl she has the potential to be a great mage if she creates a body. The scene shifts to a meal as the paladin mentions what a great experience the ruins were. You and I see the girl mention that Euron is still totally knocked out in the other room. Lying in bed, the young man grumbles about his grandfather being too hard, but the master claims it was due to his strong will. Interrupting them, he tells the old man that he has something urgent and important to report right now. He mentions snow leopards were spotted near the ruins, making the master worry they were driven from their home. It seems something even more powerful has taken over the deeper parts of the entire region. He believes it is the Beast King, a revelation that leaves the master in a state of shock. He decides to report everything to the Order of Knights separately, asking the elder to stay alert, and the warning is accepted. Once the conversation wraps up, a heavy and oppressive silence fills the entire room. The tension hangs thick in the air until the Unipeg wakes up, instantly grabbing the demon hunter's attention. With eyes wide, the creature looks full of life, prompting the master to comment on its high energy. The young man is still whining, complaining that his hand really hurts from that unexpected bite. Worried about what it eats, Daryl explains it consumes demonic energy and shows the remains he collected. Watching the creature feed, he notes how useful this little beast is going to be for everyone. Annoyed, the Unipeg headbutts him with its horn, and he is called a fool for bringing that trash. And that's where we leave it. The Paladin asks the girl to help choose a name for their new friend. You and I are diving into a world where even names hold power. She explains the name means nobility and pure white in runic, so the Paladin repeats the name Yupe in a low voice. As he strokes the creature, he officially names it Yupe, while the master studies a map for the journey ahead. He reveals there is a human farm nearby, overrun by demons, and warns the Paladin about this dangerous situation they are about to face. He then suggests that the Paladin head there immediately to resolve the threat once and for all. With a smile, the Paladin calls Yupe for dinner, before the scene shifts to the frozen northern state of Iceland in the region of Viscount. Two terrified soldiers sprint through the night, desperately praying for the protection of their god. A chilling laugh echoes through the darkness. Stay with me, because things are about to get really dark for everyone involved. A demon steps out from the shadows, mocking their pathetic attempt to run away from their inevitable fate. The monsters debate skinning them alive in front of everyone while the soldiers beg for their lives in a state of total despair. A voice suggests that since humans hate pain so much, they should really be begging for death instead. Immediately, they are brutally attacked, but then a massive, unexpected blow strikes one of the demons from out of the darkness. The Paladin arrives on the scene, catching the demons off guard, and orders his team to kill everyone there, leaving only one alive. Ready for the slaughter, his companions move in to follow the order with their weapons drawn and ready. Euron charges forward using his chain to restrain an enemy, while the young disciple strikes another demon, making it scream from the impact. Realizing the tide has completely turned against them, the demon desperately tries to find a way to escape. Grabbing the demon, he asks where it thinks it's going, and makes it suffer while crushing its body in his grip, forcing a painful reaction. While holding it, he wonders if demons feel pain the same way, and tells the creature with a smile to experience it for itself. After the battle, demon corpses litter the ground. You and I know this Paladin doesn't play around. In a brief flashback, he remembers the desperate watchmen who were the ones seeking help in the first place. He demands the master's name, but the demon refuses to speak, claiming there is a taboo on the information. Suddenly, one of the soldiers shouts out and reveals that their leader's name is actually Brun. The demon rages at the traitor, but the soldier just mocks the monster, asking how it dares to threaten him. With an irritated look, the Paladin finally tells the loudmouth soldier to just shut his mouth for a second. He demands info about the Lord's castle, but the young disciple raises his hand and asks Sir Aidan to wait. He offers to handle the interrogation himself by using his specialized and brutal inquisitor techniques. Surprised, the Paladin stares at the boy's innocent face before giving him permission to take Daryl and start. Grabbing the demon, the disciple says he'll show it exactly what a nobleman is capable of doing. They drag the prisoner away while Aidan asks the soldier if he actually managed to find the pure blood. Confirming the suspicion, the soldier admits he saw the creature almost every single day in many different forms. He explains it sometimes becomes a bat and flies over the area, making Aidan wonder why a pure blood would ever cross the continent's barrier. Maybe it's not a pure blood at all, but a mutant demon with the same level of terrifying power. A demon that has been feeding on human blood for well over 100 years. This monster can create minions to expand its power, and Aidan gets furious at Tyrone for running away instead of reporting the truth. Questioning the soldier further, he learns that dozens of vampires serve directly under the Lord's command. The man reveals they breed humans for food, which is why they fled to find the church's help. He even mentions that another paladin visited them before, but was ultimately defeated and killed by the monsters. Telling them not to worry, Aidan calmly replies that he is already fully aware of the dark situation. Soon after, his companion says the job is done, and the disciple reports the demon spilled all the information. Feeling sick from what he just saw, Daryl asks what they should do with the prisoner now. Saying they have no more use for it, the paladin kills the demon with a single, decisive strike. He explains that they were once human but chose to abandon their humanity because of their terrible sins, making salvation completely impossible for them. When asked, the young man confirms he has already found a secret route to infiltrate the Lord's castle. Praising his hard work, the paladin says they'll use the tunnel, while the smiling disciple boasts that he learned his lesson and is doing his duty. Daryl gets told to be quiet. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are diving into a rescue where the paladin realizes his team is getting close. He begins laying out his plan to seal escape routes with barriers. Just then, Sane and his sister finally pull up on horseback. The Paladin tells her they need her unique barrier skills for this mission. She agrees instantly, and he promises to walk her through the deadly details while they are on the move. He turns to his soldiers and gives a clear order: alert him the moment the Lord shows his face. Spotting Yup hovering nearby, the Paladin smiles and praises the creature for following along. He pets Yupa, telling it can feast on as much as it wants today. They reach Mutan village and find the Viscount's estate, meaning the humans have to continue the rest on foot. A voice barks orders to hurry up. By nightfall, the massive courtyard of the Grand Estate is hauntingly empty. Drowning in despair, one of the prisoners wonders if the gods have completely turned their backs on them. Moving like ghosts through the shadows, the group successfully slips into the massive castle. Looking at the captives, the disciple wonders if their blood is being drained dry. Witnessing this nightmare, Sane declares that none of this can ever be forgiven. Now pay attention, because the Paladin's blood is boiling as the infiltration officially kicks off. He charges through the halls, demanding to know the second the leader appears. Reaching the heart of the castle, he stops at a massive wooden door. Cracking the door open, the group finally sees the horror inside. The prisoners are sobbing in the dark until a sharp voice screams for everyone to shut their mouths. A man bellows at the terrified crowd, ordering them to stand up for a head count. Scanning the room, he notes that the leader still hasn't arrived. Suddenly, a mysterious voice rings out, ordering one of the prisoners to step forward immediately. A creature snatches a female prisoner, dragging her away while she desperately begs for her life. It shoots a threatening look around, warning them to obey when called. Another guard kicks a man, screaming about how the prey shouldn't dare to resist. Watching this, the Paladin thinks these arrogant brats need a serious beating to learn some respect. The cruelty doesn't stop, as a minion grabs a child who begins to scream out. With his eyes locked on the target, the hero continues to monitor every single move. Knowing he has to wait, he hears a guard start to question the head count. They discuss the missing fugitives, but somehow, the number of bodies is actually increasing. Deciding to count again, he tells one of them to step aside so he can check. They are suddenly stunned, wondering how someone that massive had been standing there the whole time. Approaching the cloaked figure, the guard asks who he is and how he dares to stand tall. Suddenly, the room erupts in cheers for the long-awaited Lord Brune. The Lord appears with a smug smile, making the Paladin wonder if this is the guy. I know what you're thinking, is this truly the feared Lord Brune? Once it is confirmed, the Paladin charges, swearing to tear the Lord to pieces. He screams for the humans to get down and orders Sane to throw up the barrier. A massive barrier rises just as the enemy's attack slams down. The Lord's power explodes with terrifying force, obliterating everything in its path. One of the minions takes a direct hit and is brutally ripped apart. Vampires are sent flying, screaming as the blast consumes them. Amidst the chaos, the prisoners point toward the source of the blast. From the smoking rubble, the Paladin emerges, gripping his weapon. Recognizing the holy light, the men shout that their savior has finally arrived. One of the soldiers bellows out, telling everyone to follow his lead. He guides the crowd toward a safe escape route. Furious, the Lord reaches out his hand to crush the fleeing group. In a blur of motion, Daryl appears and ruthlessly cuts down another vampire without blinking. He warns the crowd that the vampires can't cross the hall's barrier. Pointing to the exit, he screams for everyone to run as fast as possible. A man panics, remembering how the last paladin who visited them turned tail and ran. With total conviction, the soldier tells the man he has to trust him. Explosions rock the building as they watch from safety. Outside, the villagers fight off the remaining minions. With a confident smirk, the soldier says he's nothing like that coward from before. Drenched in blood, the paladin proves he is far more powerful than the Lord ever imagined. Gripping his weapon, he respects the gargantua's raw power. He bellows to his allies, ordering them to protect the innocent and wipe out the enemies. Ready for the carnage, the two draw their daggers and dive into the fray. Staring into the dark, he dares the mutant bastard to stop hiding. He searches for his target, demanding the Lord finally step up and fight like a man. Suddenly, a gargantuan creature shadows the moon, soaring through the dark night sky. Infuriated, the monster asks how he dared to ruin its perfect nest. Calling him a worm, it roars for vengeance. And trust me, you and I are about to see if he can survive being dissolved. Alright, you and I are diving into the final showdown with this monstrous lord. Yelling at the creature's rudeness, the paladin charges forward to strike it down. With a thunderous strike, he swings his weapon and lands a direct hit right on the creature. But the moment it hits, the monster's acidic blood starts eating through his gear. He watches in horror as his armor literally melts before his eyes. The Lord just laughs, mocking the paladin for completely underestimating his true power. The beast lunges through the air for a counterattack, but the paladin raises his weapon just in time to block the mid-air strike. He grips his blade tighter, shoving the creature back with raw strength before landing a massive blow that sends the monster flying. With a sudden move, the hero slams the monster's body straight into the ground. The Lord howls in agony as he crashes down. The impact is devastating, leaving him mangled and nearly torn in two. Despite the carnage, the monster drags itself up to keep fighting. From the sidelines, his worried companions can only watch this dangerous battle unfold. Now watch this. Even as the creature heals, the Paladin prepares to press his attack. Suddenly, several mutants appear, using twisted hallucinations to try and confuse the Paladin during the heat of combat. He ignores the fakes, stands his ground, and finally carves through the real monster. When the dust settles, the creature's body dissolves into a foul, dark puddle. Sheathing his weapon, he turns away from the carnage. The fight is over, and with a smirk, he admits the ruins were worth the trouble. He scans the area, noticing the cleanup of the smaller minions in the hall is nearly finished. The young disciple fought bravely, proving he's stronger than he looks, but the Paladin notices the boy is already reaching his limit. Wanting to test him, he tells Sane she can drop the barrier now. He smiles, noting she used a ton of energy holding that demon seal. Tired, she says her only focus was keeping that wall of protection from failing. While she worries for the others, the Paladin stays back to observe. A lone vampire lunges forward, only to be instantly defeated by the young man. The vampire snarls at his own kind, screaming for them to get out of his way. Facing his target, the disciple locks in. Sword ready, he's about to show everyone exactly what he's capable of. Training memories flood back. He hears his master's voice, commanding him to push his aura beyond every limit he knows. His master says he needs to feel the aura to master it. Channeling everything, the disciple wipes out the vampires with one single blow. Watching from the side, even the Paladin is stunned by the raw power he just saw. Collapsing to the ground, the boy realizes he needs to push even harder. Meanwhile, the Paladin smiles, knowing Euron is finally ready to hunt high-rank demons. Recognizing the boy's massive potential, he's informed that every last minion has been wiped out. To wrap things up, Daryl executes the final vampire in the hall before asking Yoop to dispose of the remains. The crew starts wiping the enemy blood off their gear. Weapon in hand, the Paladin gets ready for whatever comes next. You and I both know those red eyes mean the real mastermind is finally making its move. The soldier stays focused, claiming he's found a weakness. Then, a terrifying mouth manifests, making him wonder if the Lord is somehow still alive. It was a trap. He realizes the Lord actually transferred his soul into the body of a minion. Visibly annoyed at being tricked, he stares into the emptiness, trying to see through the Lord's latest deception. Suddenly, he finds himself in a village swallowed by flames. Startled by the sight, he struggles to understand the nightmare happening around him. It's an illusion from a high-level mutant. In a moment of pure shock, he screams out the name Eden. A woman with fox ears turns around, staring deeply into his soul. She smiles, asking if it's really been that long. Smiling softly, she tells Eden how much she missed him. She reaches out to touch his face, asking if his rage has finally died down. The Paladin holds her hand, his gaze turning cold and serious. Suddenly, he grabs her by the throat, completely catching her off guard with his fury. Choking the woman, he snarls a threat, promising to make her beg for the sweet release of death. The illusion shatters instantly, revealing the monster's hideous form. He barks an order to Euron and Daryl to prepare for an interrogation. Bound to a cross, the minion screams, as the two companions begin their brutal questioning. He demands to know if it remembers the Paladin who got away. But the monster refuses to say a single word. In a flashback, the Lord offers the strength he craves. He gives his blood, promising immense power in exchange for his eternal service. Seeing these memories, the Paladin finally says he understands exactly what's going on here. He realizes the beast doesn't fear pain, it fears death. Surprised, the disciple learns that a vampire's power is directly linked to their inner desires. He managed to save his own life by hijacking the body of another vampire. He offers a final chance at mercy, but the creature claims he's lived for eternity without regrets. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. Trust me, things get brutal as he lunges at him with a jagged bone spike. Wailing in agony, the monster can't grasp the hero's words. That eternity he's offering? It's just a life of slavery. One devastating strike is all it takes. He completely shatters the creature's arm without a second thought. He threatens to crush its head next, demanding the truth. Desperate to survive, the minion begs him to spare its life. Swearing by the god Bakar, he promises the creature safety if it just starts talking. Flashback time. The Lord claims he gave the man a choice, but our hero sees the trap desire is a powerful lure. He recalls that Tyrion took the blood of a vampire lord. Drink up, and you're part of the family forever. With a blade pressed against his throat, he's told that his world is about to end. The minion panics, pleading for the Paladin to release him. He promises anything, just wanting his soul to be saved. Out of nowhere, the creature claims he remembers something massive. He knows exactly where the Paladin's target is hiding. But the Paladin just stares him down, saying he doesn't need it. The creature claims it sensed his raw emotions, He wanted that information more than anything. Now pay attention, he turns his back, ordering his team to finish it. The minion screams, remembering the oath. He scoffs, asking if the name of Bachar is really that cheap. With a smirk, he asks if he's scared of punishment. The young man just smiles right back. Punishment? He asks what that even means. He walks away, telling the minion to get his hands off his cape. Once it's over, the villagers burn the vampires themselves. Watching their nightmares turn to ash, the villagers finally let all that pain go. Once things settle, everyone thanks the Paladin. But he's miles away, thinking about the person who caused this whole mess. The new lord is just a boy, the only son left alive. He looks at the Paladin, doubting if he's fit to lead. The Paladin tells him straight. He's the last one left, so he has to step up. Backing him up, the Paladin promises that the church will help rebuild everything. Tearing up, the young lord thanks him for the lifeline. He pours out his gratitude for the Paladin's mercy and grace. Cut to the lord's office, where a heavy seal slams down onto a formal document. Slumped at his desk, the Paladin finally closes the case. But wait, the Imperial report has shocking intel regarding the king. The church officially clears Daryl Insane of every charge. He leans down, reaching for the very last letters on the pile. Somewhere else, a woman wonders why God lets the world suffer like this. He knew she'd ask that. Even the man starts questioning his path. She explains that their faith was built around the god Bachar. He mentions other tribes worshipping a god of war. Others follow a great sage, using divine power that leads to chaos. The woman looks at him, asking if he considers those entities to be real gods. Religions are as varied as the gods themselves, but by chasing a perfect god, humans ended up tearing each other apart. Since most follow Bachar, any other belief is immediately branded as heresy. You feel that too, right? People get loud when faith is challenged. Uriel looks relieved, like she's solved a difficult puzzle. Flashback. She wonders why God just stands there, watching the world burn from the sidelines. Why was she given such power? He rejects it all, admitting he despises seeing demi-humans treated like nothing but slaves. He makes it clear he only moves according to his own iron will and principles. He acts on his own beliefs, not for some god. She says he actually seems divine, even while being sacrilegious. Curious, she asks how he even taps into Bakar's power. He gets serious, telling her that's one secret he won't share. He's ready to answer her questions when Daryl suddenly bursts in, frantically looking for Eden. He drops the news, a paladin was just spotted on the edge of the big city. Meanwhile, the paladin gallops through the freezing snow, wondering if Tyrion actually drank that blood. He opens a vial, fearing this might be the same Tyrion Rapalli warned him about. He prays the rumors aren't true. He yells for them to move faster, demanding to know if Tyron took the blood. His partner warns that Eden is coming. He scans the horizon. He knows the target has to be hidden somewhere nearby. He looks toward the peaks and sees a knight's silhouette moving. Realizing who it is, he screams Tyron's name. And trust me, that's where we leave it, as he watches in haunting silence. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a story where honor and betrayal clash in the coldest way possible. Back at the encounter, the paladin grabs him, shouting that everything was a lie. The warrior leaps, unsheathing his sword with a guttural roar. After blocking the strike, he demands to know if Tyron really drank the blood. With a cold stare, Tyron asks if he is really that curious. He explains his power only triggers when a demon is sensed. Wielding his weapon, he warns that taking down the threat is his only priority. A massive strike sends his enemy flying, screaming in agony. Seeing the dark blood, he wonders if he is actually fighting a vampire. He collapses into the snow, mouth bleeding heavily. Standing over the broken man, the paladin coldly calls out Tyron's name. He tells him to stop fighting it. He asks, "Will you finally admit to the crimes you are accused of?" Looking up, Tyron finally admits it. It is true he committed a truly unforgivable sin. He calls him a weak coward who lost his way, but Tyron just asks which version of the story the paladin wants. He admits his guilt, but not his defeat. Even mangled, he stands back up, though the other doubts he can even win. He says it is obvious the other man will lose. He asks if he thinks he is stupid and gets a cold confirmation. Tightening his grip, he warns that the time for games is officially over. Now pay attention here, he lunges forward, warning that silence means immediate execution. Tyron can only brace for the impact. He lets out a massive scream, facing the charge. With a blur of motion, he brings his weapon down with everything he has. The other paladin somehow parries the strike with an insane spinning counterattack right in midair. Seeing the counter, his face twists into total despair. Their blades clash, sending a massive shockwave rippling through the air. The force of the blow is incredible, launching him backward across the frozen ground. Staring at the fallen man, he warns the fight is over. He strikes the earth, sending snow exploding into the air. He walks toward his defeated opponent, who lies broken in the snow. Okay, let's pause. We are about to see what drove this man to the edge. He asks Tyron what really brought him here. Flipping back to a memory, He remembers screaming at the top of his lungs, begging to be saved. Surrounded by corpses, he begged for his life. Then, a voice told him to remember the humiliation he faced every single day. A voice offered him a bottle, telling him to drink away his defeat. Back in the present, he is struck down once more. He falls to his knees, gasping for air. In agony, he admits he does not know if his story will even be believed. He explains he only came back to die as a paladin, not as some monster fueled by demon blood. He promised himself he would slay the mutant. This was his plan even before he ever stepped foot in this territory. He remembers arriving at the village, where people thanked him and begged for his protection. But when Eden arrived, he realized the hero had already taken care of everything. The paladin calls him irresponsible for coming here just to die. He smiles, knowing his noble friend would say exactly that. He confesses that Eden, with all his legendary achievements, was the kind of man he had always truly admired. He says he will not speak anymore. He left the evidence on his desk. He took the blood to prove the truth, knowing it would not save him. He warns that the others will soon be coming for him, right where the mutants are hiding. He asks if they really thought this would be easy. Laughing, he says he would be killed by his own kind, not the monsters. Eden reflects that if this is all true, Tyron was simply tempted and seduced by the devil. Even in regret, he still fought for the salvation of his people. Eden questions if the man truly deserved to die for this. Knowing the execution unit has zero pity, he thinks of the church. Tyron would be killed without a single shred of mercy. Thinking about human error, he asks himself, is it really fair to execute someone who truly repents? Suddenly, he spins around, throwing his weapon with a thunderous shout. He thrusts his hand forward to block an attack. A battle axe flies through the air with terrifying force. But then, out of nowhere, a hand reaches out and catches the heavy axe in midair. He is shocked she arrived so early. A woman appears, saying she was eager to finally meet the legendary Sir Eden. With a smirk, she says she will greet him properly once she has finished crushing the traitor. He is annoyed that she is the one showing up right now. She apologizes to the legendary hero for her rudeness, but then leaps toward the traitor. Tyron is paralyzed as death leaps. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. You and I are jumping back in as Eden suddenly steps forward. He blocks her strike instantly. She just laughs, raising her blade and continuing her brutal, relentless, and deadly attack. His fist clenches as he prepares to end this. Charging forward, he shoves the woman aside with a powerful arm. Sent flying back, she demands to know what Lord Eden thinks he is doing. He stares her down with a look that says he is not backing away. Blade ready. He roars for her to stop immediately. Flat on the ground, the man wonders why his life was just spared from certain death. She asks why he is protecting a traitor. He answers calmly, even as she brags about her trophy scarf. He declares with absolute certainty that Tyrone is not a follower of any evil god cult. Surprised, she suggests their crimes might be even worse. He notes she only cares about killing the man. She snaps back, asking if he was not the one trying to kill the man earlier. Denying the charge, he explains he was only testing Tyrone's alleged crimes against Sileron. She turns toward him, waiting. Seeing her allies arrive, she asks exactly what he means by that. One of her allies scolds her for charging in, and she quickly apologizes. Seeing Eden, the man asks for the whole story. Now watch this flashback. Tyrone faces an unbeatable enemy and falls before he can even fully recover. Finishing the tale, he explains that the man was desperate and in serious need of help. Outraged, the man asks if the traitor really intended to use them as mere tools. He agrees that using knights was wrong, but not a death-worthy sin. When asked for proof, he admits he has none. He suggests that without evidence, the paladin was likely just deceived by the traitor. Eden calls for an investigation instead of death. Reluctantly, the man agrees because his lord insists on it. With a smirk, he confirms the execution is on hold. The other paladin snaps at Tyrone for wasting his time. He warns that if he is guilty, he will pay. If he is sorry, he better start praying. Looking at his savior, he begins to tell his lord how much he appreciates his true sincerity. He turns and simply thanks him for the help. Laughing, the woman says it is time to kill the monsters. Suddenly, a voice announces that he has already killed all the creatures for Lady Sileron. Asking about the corpses, she offers to help clean up the mess by turning them all to dust. Another man says he already burned them. She sighs, realizing it is just not her day for monster snacks. Already mounted on his horse, he says he is finished, and they need to leave right now. Before they can ride off, a companion shouts that he has some news for Lord Eden. He announces the campaign is cancelled, and the troops are free. Then, he introduces himself as Jude, a holy mage. Shaking his hand, Eden says it is a genuine pleasure to finally meet him. Jude smiles, noting Tegan's good work. Here is a pivot you and I didn't see coming. He knows about Priest Garrus. He reveals that Jerus is now the council head and assistant to the Grandmaster himself. Hearing this, he goes quiet for a moment, processing everything he has just been told. We see Tegan appointing Doss to his new role. Together, they vow to wipe out the Empire's internal corruption. Smiling, he realizes he can just message Jerus to fix Tyrone's problem once and for all. Meanwhile, one of his allies just watches the entire conversation in total silence. Before they part ways, Jude calls him over to share one last vital piece of information. He reveals that the Paladin is set for a massive promotion. A man reads his achievements from a scroll. A man says it is not just luck, and that his new promotion is a natural next step. With a smile, he says the talk is over, and leaves. From a window, he notes Eden has left again. He compares the man to a storm that sweeps through every single corner. Back in the north, he tells the man he will be heading out early in the morning. He leaves the rest to the king and the church. The man complains about the work, but Eden wishes him luck. Thinking back on the fight, he wonders what he truly felt while facing Sileron. Trust me, you and I both know that sacred flame only ignites once his faith truly resonates within his soul. Alright, stick with me, you're about to see if his faith actually held strong. Still no answer. He admits he's clueless about the truth, but realizes every choice in this game completely reshapes the character's paths. Gripping his fist tight, he knows he just needs to master that strange feeling he felt. Before he can leave, the man stops him with a confused look. He smiles and asks for one last duel before they part ways. Challenge accepted. The man tells the kid to brace himself because things are getting real. He charges in, eager to see some real combat skills. Then boom! Their weapons collide with a massive, bone-shaking impact. Cut to a sunny forest as their horse gallops through the trees. They reach a river, and he announces they finally made it. A flash of memory hits a man and a little girl shouting with pure joy. Pointing ahead, he welcomes them to the coastal city of Arras. The girl asks how he wields Basar's power, but he says it's way too complicated. He promises to give her all the answers very soon. Inside the city, they watch boats floating by the quiet docks. Their friend explains that this is basically the holy land for every adventurer. As the only gateway to the continent, it makes sense why the place is crawling with heroes. She doesn't buy the story for a second, calling it a total lie. Eden just sips his drink, enjoying the rare peace. He pushes back, asking about her past while noticing the trace of blood on her. He backtracks quickly, but pay attention here, the girl suddenly asks if mermaids actually feast on human beings. He drops a bombshell that leaves her stunned they actually eat each other. He realizes he just destroyed her innocence with that truth bomb. Suddenly, a waiter interrupts their mermaid dish is finally served. Setting down the plate, the waiter brags about how much care went into this meal. She asks if he'll eat, but he refuses. He knows mermaids are just like them. The topic is forbidden. Suddenly, a man grabs him, demanding to know if they're even human. With a steel gaze, he knows it's time to move. He rides off alone before Ural can even read his letter. A memory flashes back. There's one specific person he absolutely has to find first. He says he's got business, agrees to meet at the inn, and heads to the Adventurers Guild with a clear mission in mind. While heading back down, he feels eyes on him. Someone is watching him from the floor above. A woman's voice rings out, asking if our paladin was specifically looking for her. She introduces herself as Yuna, and admits she's glad they finally met in person. When she asks why he's there, he simply tells her to follow him right now. He drops their real destination on her. They're heading straight to the bottom of the ocean. She just stares at him, completely speechless. Sitting down, she asks if this is just some weird paladin joke. With a tired sigh, he gets ready to spill the beans. He knows her skilled adventurer act is just a cover. He mentions the forbidden taboo, and asks again will she take him to the sea. She laughs nervously and suggests they talk this over some food. Then he hits her with it. Does she know any good mermaid restaurants in town? You and I saw that reaction, right? Her secret is out, she really is a mermaid. She panics, wondering how he knows. Suddenly, she leaps from the table in a desperate attempt to escape. He reaches out, telling her there's absolutely no reason for them to fight. In one swift move, he grabs her hair and shuts down her escape. She's stunned at being caught so fast. He tells her to relax, he's not going to hurt her. Once he lets go, a heavy silence fills the air. He repeats that he must reach the sea and asks if she'll finally accept his mission. She's frozen in shock as he repeats the proposal, then starts explaining how mermaids actually live in the hidden, underwater city of Atlantis. In a war from long ago, the sea god was crushed and sealed away by Basar. After that defeat, a bizarre curse transformed their entire tribe. Their power faded, turning them into monsters whenever they're on dry land. With their history forgotten, many of them were hunted down and eaten by humans. But Yuna is special, she holds the sea god's true power. He tells her he knows everything, and their mission finally aligns perfectly. To break the curse, they have to reach the ruins of Elpis, where they were imprisoned. Those relics hold the secrets Ural is looking for. He clears her doubts and officially reveals he'll be joining her mission. He heads back, and trust me, his real plan is just beginning. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a world where ancient taboos are finally being shattered. When the companions arrive, the man asks about Nari before urging Yuna to share her story with everyone. She wonders if he was just faking it, pretending to know everything while actually knowing nothing at all. Since they all have a vital role to play, he asks her to reveal her true identity and purpose. Nodding slowly, she lowers her head and finally gives in to his request. She transforms, revealing she is actually a mermaid from Atlantis. Shocked, the girl points out a strange mark on her arm. Approaching her, the girl is captivated by her beauty, especially the stunning colors she sees. When Daryl asks to touch, he is immediately told to control himself and sit down. Watching them, he notes how easily Seiun makes friends. He announces his trip to Atlantis with Yuna, leaving Seiun with Yofi. His companion is worried, asking if he really plans on heading to the city of Atlantis all alone. Now watch this. He reveals they are going as a trio. Just then, he notices an arrival and orders the doors to be opened. He knew she would be here soon. But when he opens the door, the man is absolutely stunned by who is standing outside. The young man arrives, saying it has been a long time. The timing is perfect. Looking at the figure, he finally realizes it is the Saint Ural who has arrived. Reading the letter, she wonders why Lord Eden summoned her for 10 days. Suddenly, a messenger arrives with an urgent message. He says it is hard to put into words, but the Lord's message sounded like pure blasphemy. Arriving at the meeting spot, the young man admits he had a hard time finding the place. A figure behind him stares him down, making him wonder why the man feels so incredibly terrifying. Startled, the man asks who this is before announcing that his preference is actually for other men. Eden just covers his face in disbelief. Immediately, the man drops to his knees and bows his head all the way to the ground. Begging for forgiveness, he offers to pay for his mistake with his own life right then. Eden warns him that if it were any other saint, he would definitely be a dead man by now. She tells him to stand up, joking that if they killed everyone for that, no one would be left alive. Thanking her for coming, he asks about her excuse. She admits everyone thinks she went to a blasphemous funeral. Yuna steps forward, curiously asking what kind of funeral could possibly keep her away for so long. He explains it is a month-long ritual of prayer where eating, sleeping, and seeing visitors are all strictly forbidden. Hearing the details, the young man agrees that the whole thing sounds pretty useless. Telling her not to feel guilty, Eden says she did well. Believing in divinity like that is just superstition. He leaves her thinking by explaining that sacred power is not actually gained through rituals like that. He brought her here to see the evidence. She replies that he definitely needs to show her the truth. He reflects on how Ural started doubting if Bekasar was actually all-powerful. She had a horrible breakdown because of the disbelief. He knows he must act fast before her heart completely shatters. Pay attention here. He is determined to personally destroy every lie she still believes. Yuna gets everyone's attention, telling them to pick up the conversation where they left off. The group sits at the table, waiting. She looks at each of them and prepares to address the main topic. Her face freezes in pure shock. Hearing the truth about everything has left her completely paralyzed. Desperate, she asks if Bekasar really turned them into monsters. Then, the scene shifts to two men at a cafe. Covering her mouth, she collapses, refusing to believe any of it. As she falls, her companion screams her name. Meanwhile, Eden and Yuna just watch the tragedy unfold in total silence. Looking at the dark sea, the companion asks Eden what their next move is going to be. He walks over and asks about the saint. She cried a lot, but has finally calmed down while worrying about the future. He warns that the Empire is going to have a massive reaction to this truth. He worries about the unrest this will cause. Elsewhere, a small winged animal sleeps peacefully on a wooden balcony. Back in the meeting room, he watches the group as they gather around the table. Checking if everyone is calm, he asks a question. Then her companion asks what happened to the Northern Paladin Tyron. And that is where we leave it. Tyron was dismissed, and Zeros took care of everything. You saw that coming, right? Alright, you and I are diving into a world where everyone is waiting on the Holy Lord's scriptures. After resting, he and his group set off on a small boat as their companions bid them a safe journey. Under the starry night sky, the trio continues their voyage across the open sea. The boat cuts through the dark ocean waters, pressing forward into the unknown. Noticing the change, he mentions she looks calmer, and she agrees that her suspicions are finally becoming much clearer now. Recalling the past, he remembers the saint began to speak. A massive vibration rocks the boat. Lord Eden, what is happening? Everyone freezes, unable to believe their eyes. Danger! She screams that it is a surprise attack by a group of mermaids. Desperate, he asks how much time remains, but she warns they have to push even further. The boat rocks wildly. He shouts to Jonah that they will sink if they keep this up. She shouts that they must eat her scales if they want to breathe deep underwater. With zero other options, they hesitantly take the scales and swallow them down. Suddenly, a massive tail flips the boat. He realizes his priority is protecting the saint at all costs. Standing firm, he gives the order to jump exactly on his signal. Now pay attention here. Yuna begs the Paladin not to kill them, promising she will drive the creatures away and resolve everything very quickly indeed. He starts the countdown. Number 1, 2, 3. He screams for everyone to jump as they leap toward the water. The three of them dive from the boat, disappearing instantly into the cold, black sea. Deep underwater, he continues to sink as air bubbles rise up. Atlantis is waiting for him. Nearby, Yuna is shocked that she can actually breathe underwater. Suddenly, the saint's body begins to transform, and she screams at the change. She looks down in total shock. She has turned into a mermaid. Suddenly, several sea creatures surround the new mermaid on the ocean floor. Now watch this. A monster lunges, and she freezes in total terror as it attacks. With a swift blow, Eden strikes the creature, stopping it from attacking the saint. He holds the defeated monster and asks if she is all right. Yuna asks the Paladin to stay close as a group of mermaids swims peacefully below. He finds their calm behavior strange, but it is all thanks to Jonah's presence. He explains their connection to the sea god, wondering how they dare to block his holy path. Shouting at the group, he tells everyone to get out of there if they want to live. Immediately, the suppression works, and the creatures disappear into the darkness of the ocean. She thanks him for waiting and points the way forward. The group continues to swim through the area full of algae and plants, feeling the pressure as the current gets much stronger there. Uriel begins to look exhausted from all the recent physical strain. Seeing her struggle, he approaches to help her along the way. He takes her hand and tells her to relax and just follow his lead. It is difficult, but she tries her best to keep up. She wonders how they can swim here, but he credits their faith. As he leads, she reflects on the situation. Reflecting on their journey, she concludes that Sir Eden is a very strange man as they finally arrive at the sunken city of Atlantis. He calls to the saint, and she turns immediately. Without a single word, he lets go of her hand, leaving her to move forward on her own. Startled by the sudden gesture, she apologizes for holding on, and he tells her to hurry up. He explains that Jonah's power is unlocked by the air. Suddenly, a guard appears asking who they are, but Eden strikes him down squarely, and he passes out as our shared adventure truly begins. Stick with me because this plan is about as dangerous as it gets. He tells Jonah not to worry. He's not a killer. If that barrier snaps, everyone becomes a monster. But get this, the curse? That's actually their lifeline. He vows to break both the seal and the curse, ordering Jonah to lead the survivors back to the surface immediately. She promises the team is ready and waiting, swearing she'll keep the collateral damage to an absolute minimum. But doing nothing means certain death for everyone. For our main character, this kind of impossible dilemma feels all too familiar for him. He hides behind the noble goal of saving the future, but deep down, his own choices are weighing heavy. Frustration boils over as he grips his fist tight. He shakes it off and heads toward the saint to finish what they started. They finally reach the temple of the sea god. She announces that they've arrived at the point of no return. It's time for goodbyes. She tells them she's praying they all make it back to dry land in one piece. The statue of the goddess is massive, absolutely imposing. He looks up, knowing Cheyenne is the one who kicked off this nightmare. No more stalling. He turns to her with cold eyes and says it's time to move. At the threshold, he tells her the truth behind her doubts lies inside. Then the massive doors groan open, revealing what was hidden on the other side. Step by step, they walk deep into the temple, straight toward that gargantuan goddess statue. He grips his fist, ready to unleash the power he's been holding. He reveals his secret rank divine representative of Arhan himself. As the divine envoy, he calls out to Cheyenne, channeling divine energy to absolve her sins. The sheer force of the artifact shatters the statue instantly. Now watch this. The statue shatters, and the entire world begins to shake. Outside, the barrier explodes into a million shards. Yuna screams in terror as the ocean comes rushing in to swallow them whole. Before the city gets sealed off, he drops a bombshell. He didn't actually need to bring her along for the ride. Saving her wasn't the main goal. To pull this off, they need both eyes of a high-tier saint. He gets blunt. He brought her here specifically for her mind's eye. She freezes, asking him what the hell he's talking about. He mocks her confusion, asking if she truly doesn't understand the price. Does she really want to see the sea that badly? The realization hits her like a truck. This isn't a joke. He's literally committing the ultimate act of blasphemy. A booming voice echoes, sensing the mortal's true intent. The statue's eyes glow as it demands to know if Beklasar sent him. You and I saw that coming. He denies it completely. But the statue isn't buying his talk of a pardon. Suddenly, the statue's face manifests, declaring with chilling authority that the curse is still very much in effect. It screams in rage, accusing him of leading the sea folk to a total massacre. Even with the water returning, the monster transformations will never stop. He fires back. He knows they're just pagans serving her every whim. His sect doesn't tolerate pagans, but he's got an ace up his sleeve, a talisman that grants absolute forgiveness to anyone. Jonah was scouring the empire for this very item. But the statue scoffs. Does he really think the Emperor will forgive this? Suddenly, the talisman's power surges. The woman screams as the energy hits her. Gasping for air, she begs him to hold on for a moment. She asks if his lord ordered this madness, but he simply says he doesn't know. He shoots a deadly glare, warning that if this woman dies, his eyes flare with terrifying, lethal light. He vows to wipe her entire race off the map. The statue freezes, dead, silent, clearly hesitating for the first time. He's calm. He won't die today because he's already planned 10 steps ahead. The goddess's eyes glow, watching him in silence. She admits he is no ordinary human, noting that he didn't even flinch under her divine pressure. She dismisses his claims as worthless philosophy. Calling him an arrogant brat, she prepares to shut him down for good. She warns that he'll never break her will. Their sins remain, and no little talisman is going to change that. She tells them point blank not to trust a word she says. Then boom! A massive energy blast blows them all back. Through the smoke, a voice brands him as the real threat. His true nature was buried under a fake title this whole time. He grips his fist, refusing to let death take another soul today. Warning them this is their one shot, he tells everyone to stay sharp. Now, as the liberator of Atlantis, he stands his ground against the goddess. Riding the current, they push forward toward the final destination. No turning back now. She asks where they're headed. His answer? The ruins of the great hero. And that's where we leave it. Villagers turn to mermaids, saved only by Jonah's power. Trust me, it's about to get wild. Stick with me, we're about to uncover why Gong needs her divine eye, and whether something like that is even possible. He just looks down for a moment, confirming that yes, it is actually possible to do. She feels totally used, but he insists there is a much deeper reason behind his request. He mentions the truth about the gods and offers help. She admits she would give him the power if asked, but he refuses the offer, making it clear this is not for his own personal gain. There's no rush to decide. He tells her she has time to see the evidence for herself. Together, the two of them swim deeper toward their final destination in the vast sea. He reflects that even if she refuses, manipulating the plot with her divine eye will be a victory. The final choice is hers, so he lets her process the gravity of the situation. Now pay attention, because as they reach the ruins, the mystery of this ancient barrier and how they enter finally begins to unravel. As they pass through the barrier, they are both completely stunned by what they find inside. A skeletal figure hangs in chains, staring them down and calling them both filthy demons. He calls her closer, telling her they need to stick together to keep moving forward now. He asks for a second, pausing just an instant before they continue their walk. She is frozen in pure terror, until his hand firmly takes hers to reassure her. Seeing her struggle, he offers to help but asks her to stay calm and focused. Closing her eyes, she takes a breath and finally agrees to begin the heavy task. They approach the massive stone slab together, as her eyes glow to decipher the ancient inscription. Suddenly, the text on the stone begins to glow, revealing its secrets to them. Shocked, she asks if it's all true. He confirms the hero was once praised by his god, but he explains that this hero fell from grace, becoming the world's original demon. Elpis proved his god wasn't omnipotent before casting his entire tribe into the depths of the sea. Unable to overcome the guilt, he succumbed to a corruption that feeds on human emotions. He even tore out his own eyes and ears, yet the guilt remained until he wanted his tribe gone. Now a demon, his only purpose is to slaughter his tribe to stop his own torment. I know what you're thinking, that is an impossible choice to make, as Elpis seals himself away with his remaining sanity. She can either wake this ancient demon up or just turn around and walk away. Looking at the monster, he smiles. He already knows he is finally going to wake it up. Within these ruins of great heroes, ancient records like these are rarely discovered. Claiming this won't be simple. It's a test of worth, and they'll have to defeat the fallen hero, Elpis himself. He warns her of the risk, but she mimics a tragedy and asks what happens if they actually fail. She argues that using lives as collateral just isn't the right way to go. Although he agrees, he explains that legend says Bachakar cast Elpis into Atlantis long ago. He explains that these chains will one day break as they are not eternal. He decides to risk everything for a chance at victory and steps forward toward his destiny. Staring at his target, he declares this to be a conquest trial from Arhan. He believes in his master's path as the woman kneels on the ground to begin a prayer to Saint Bakr. She says his sword cries out for annihilation to finally illuminate this dark night. She demands an answer before judgment falls. Looking at her, he realizes this power belongs to Uriel. Her strength is massive. He leaps forward, knowing he can barely even control this energy. He soars through the air, diving toward the chained beast with his sword gripped tightly. With everything he's got, the blade strikes the immobilized creature with a massive impact. The monster screams in agony. Grabbing the woman, he shouts that he's going to get her to safety. He leaps onto a high platform and checks to make sure she is doing okay. A massive explosion. You and I just witnessed a nightmare waking up. All right. You and I are about to witness a battle where Elpis's seal has finally shattered. He warns that the beast is moving and readies himself for the descent. Transformed and massive, the monster re-emerges as the girl watches from afar. Panicking, he shouts a desperate warning to the saints about the looming threat. Tragedy strikes before the warning lands. As those massive claws lunge for her, he throws himself in the way, taking the brutal hit as she screams his name. Even with a gaping wound, he refuses to back down, anchoring himself against the crushing force of the blow. Crashing to the earth, the woman cries out while the creature mockingly licks the fresh blood from its claws. Using his final embers of strength, he begs for healing and she desperately agrees. He slams his foot down, gathering the momentum needed to drive the beast back. She begins the healing process while the monster's eyes watch their every move. He tells her to stay back and support him, but she's terrified by his wounds. Claiming he's fine, he insists they work together to take this thing down. Stained in the enemy's blood, he stands tall for the long fight ahead. The monster glares him down, eyes filled with malice before launching its next attack. Leaping at the enemy, he lands a heavy blow right in its chest. Watch this closely because this devastating strike sinks deep into the opponent's flesh with lethal intent. The monster is sent flying, letting out a pained shriek from the impact. But the recoil is just as bad, throwing him far across the battlefield. Quickly regaining his footing, he manifests a glowing spear and prepares a deadly counterattack. He charges with the new weapon, blocking the beast's powerful strike. But the monster's sheer speed is overwhelming, leaving him stunned by the force of the collision. Suddenly, the creature's massive claw rains down on him with zero mercy. Despite his best defense, he takes the hit head-on. Coughing up blood, the sheer agony of the strike starts to set in. His body is thrown violently, slamming into the hard ground as his blood stains the entire area red. Battered but not broken, he slowly drags himself up. The monster just laughs, claiming that even a saint's body tears like paper. With one hand, it easily crushes his armor into scrap metal. He yells back that he's fine, telling her to keep the support coming. Nodding in understanding, she refocuses all her energy on keeping him in the fight. But look over there, the monster's wounds are already knitting back together. He warns her they have to kill it before it fully regenerates. The beast lets out a deafening roar and charges, while he readies his final defense. He hurls his weapon to clear out the smaller minions swarming him. Then, he draws his sword, carving through enemies while dancing around their strikes. Caught by a surprise attack, he groans in pain but quickly recovers. He dodges the beast and yells that their opening is now. He turns to the saintess, asking for one last blessing to deliver the finishing blow. She raises her arms and chants, calling down a massive pillar of divine energy that crashes directly onto him from the heavens. Now, glowing with power, he wields a spear of pure energy. He grips it tight, declaring that the endgame is finally here. Recognizing the sheer strength, he invokes the name of Saint Uriel. With one swing, he obliterates a crowd of enemies all at once. He then shifts the energy into a whip for a wider attack. Stomping his foot down, he prepares to unleash every drop of power. The ground shatters as a massive crater forms, tearing the monster apart. The blast cuts through everything, eventually sending the creature's head crashing to the dirt. What remains of the enemy suddenly erupts into a massive sphere of energy. Standing alone, you and I can see the toll this took. Even his hand is starting to dissolve into dust as the enemy vanishes. He breathes out, admitting that the power was far beyond his wildest imagination. Suddenly, a sharp shock of pain courses through his entire body. He leans heavily on his weapon, groaning from the agonizing backlash. He realizes his body is breaking under Uriel's gift. But Elpis isn't dead yet. This was only the first phase of the nightmare. A massive vortex forms in the air. If he collapses now, everything is over. He curses the backlash, wishing he'd saved the blessing for the second phase. Meanwhile, dark energy continues to swirl in the center of the ruins. The saint screams Eden's name from across the field. Suddenly, he looks down, sensing something small and fast approaching his position. He looks down to see the saint standing there, asking what she's even doing. He's shocked. She jumped down to heal him, especially since her legs are clearly broken. He notes her aggressive determination despite the pain. Still reeling from the shock of the backlash, she asks if the fight is actually over. With his eyes closed, he confirms the worst. He tells her to prepare the blessing again the moment he gives the signal. She flatly refuses, telling him there is no way she is doing that. You and I just witnessed a close call, and she knows next time he'll die. But he readies his staff, preparing to make her an offer. Let's dive in as a blinding light covered in ancient symbols suddenly erupts, filling the entire area. He asks her to excuse him for a moment before grabbing her and rushing off. Once there, he sets her right in front of a massive stone tablet. Then, he tells her to read the inscriptions about a consensual transfer of power. Staring at the stone, he explains, "This is the ruin's hidden secret." She smiles, admitting she knew he would never ask for anything too crazy. He reminds her he is only human, after all. Then, He drops a bombshell. He got the power of resurrection from the sea god. She wonders if he wants her to trade her own power just to save him later on. He knows it is a lot to ask, warning her she might lose everything. But without this, they have no chance against the nightmare that is about to wake up. Now pay attention here, because high above them, the enemy's massive shadow is finally starting to form. She reminds him he promised their chances were good. Taking the blame, he warns her that their tribe will be wiped out if they fail. She realizes if he planned this, he is basically using innocent lives as hostages to force her hand. He looks away, saying there is simply no time to argue. She then asks if all his heroics were just for fame and respect. He closes his eyes and finally admits she is right. Seeing this, she shuts her eyes as well. She reaches a major conclusion and calls him a liar, but he reminds her that he is just a human being like her. You and I can see she is softening up now. She tells him to stop joking and admits he is the only person she cannot figure out. In a quick memory, she recalls him saying that he lies as easily as he breathes. She knows he sometimes treats people like mere tools. Even so, she believes he is a man who always finds a way to a happy ending. Accepting the proposal, she asks him to make one single promise to her. He must never use that power of resurrection directly on her. He gives his word, places a hand on her head, and begins the intense power transfer. As her energy drains, she feels a strange mix of regret and rebirth. Her mind's eye taught her much, but it left deep scars. Since she could see the hidden side of people, she honestly believed he had no feelings. But realizing she was wrong, she still feels a bit disappointed by her own expectations. Smiling, she says she will finally see what is truly in his heart. She declares that from this moment on, she will view the world through the eyes of her Lord. His eyes glow as he swears to put this power to good use. Meanwhile, the enemy reappears with his blade drawn, ready for blood. He warns her that this is a gamble with her life, so she cannot afford to relax. Facing the foe, he recognizes Paladin Ellis Bellerhard. You and I both know this is about to be an epic showdown. Finally finish the task that was left undone.